Good evening, everybody. I hope some of you saw the Twitter comment just saying that I would be streaming a little bit closer to 7:30. I'm a little bit off on that target, but hey, Olaf, you are right on time. Sorry, you probably saw the tweet, so my apologies for not being a little more close to my estimated time, but OBS had an update, so I need to run through. I hope you're doing well. Very happy to see you. For those of you who maybe have been wondering where Stellaris has gone or otherwise... fair. I need to really get a little bit better at being more consistent on the... update in progress. Okay, sorry, I just need a second here to let Stellaris do its thing. So... for those of you kind of wondering where Stellaris has been for the last little while, I have been kind of running around with both written works of George Orwell as well as games that I feel have sort of been participating in some of the big topics that are brought up in those books and tend to sort of surround conversations about his works, well, at least probably his best known ones. But that's come to an end. So we did Animal Farm, we did Not for Broadcast, we did 1984, and then we did both Orwell and Orwell Ignorance is Strength. So I really enjoyed doing that little diversion. I hope you all enjoyed that as well. But I also know for a number of you, you're really just here for Stellaris, or at the very least you would like to see some more strategy, which has sort of been kind of in the back seat for a little while. So we're going to be going back to something that's a bit more, I guess a little bit more traditional for me. So this is going to mean that Stellaris is going to be back for the Monday game. Now there's two things that I want to just comment on for that. For a while on this particular playthrough, I'm not feeling it right now, but there were a couple of streams where I was sort of starting to feel the strain of doing a lot of Nemesis. So that is to say that normally I'd sort of change it up among a few different Paradox games on the Mondays, or at the very least, like a few different games. And for Stellaris, again, they very kindly gave me a key for Nemesis. So I wanted to make sure that I did right by that key. And if I couldn't dedicate other days for streaming, at the very least, I wanted to make sure that I was sort of consistently covering it past that point where sort of the whale-like influencers have sort of moved on to other games. But what I did find was I was getting a little bit of fatigue with regards to Stellaris. And so I think what that might do is put a few constraints in terms of the types of sessions that I start. So I'm trying to figure out if I want to do more smaller sessions or if I just want to do sort of a big campaign for a given patch and then sort of move on to something, sort of recharge my batteries and then head up. Again, I'm really happy to be doing this one, and I don't have any plans on cutting it short. But what I am noticing is with the custodian patches, there is another one coming out. I think it's version 3.3. So I don't know if that's going to break the compatibility, but what this might mean is that I sort of feel like I'm on something of a Stellaris treadmill where I'm maybe starting games but not finishing them as much. So the only thing I'll say about that is I may sort of reevaluate the best way to make sure that I'm not just playing Stellaris, but sort of I'm giving people the experience of Stellaris that they want, and then also that, I'm actually covering the game as opposed to, just doing, the opening moves over like a month and then, never doing it again. At that point, I really shouldn't be asking for a key if I'm going to do something like that, because I'm not entirely sure that's serving anyone. But Senior Q, long awaited the return of the Turtle Mob. How am I? I'm all right. I'm quite tired. I've had some sleep trouble. But yeah, we were just addressing the status of Stellaris. So I'm really looking forward to coming back to this one. I will also just preface this by saying I definitely need to refamiliarize myself with this playthrough. So I want to say right off the bat, I know it's already been 5 minutes. Everyone on YouTube's just like, Jesus Christ, move on already. But the real effort here for today is to keep the expectations for myself quite low, refamiliarize myself with sort of where I'm at, because I don't have any of that. Even on like a 1 week cadence, I sort of have roughly a memory of where I was going. Whereas here, I'm quite a bit more divorced from what sort of my intentions were. I think we might be in the middle of a war. But yeah, suffice to say, I'm gonna have a bit of work ahead of me just to sort of make sense and hopefully not break apart the Empire with foolishness. Yeah, actually, it could have been that the war is over. We'll have to see about that. I think I might be in another war. But we'll figure that out in a moment. I'll also get the disclaimer. So again, just this is going to be a fairly low expectations entry. I know I do have a playlist on YouTube, so generally when people are watching playlists, they tend to be seeing them in a shorter order than where I'm actually playing. So if it feels like I've sort of been hit on the head with something very heavy between the previous episode and this one, it's because there have been several weeks where I've been doing, something that, again, I found very rewarding and I'm hoping people enjoyed, but I realize is a little bit off of my usual path. So it's going to take me a little bit, in addition to just my general fogginess, it's going to take me a little bit to get familiar with what this playthrough is doing. I also want to get the disclaimers out of the way because I do sometimes fall into the bad habit of forgetting and then having to sort of rush it in. You tend to want to make that kind of conspicuous and head a 1/3 of the way through the Orwell gameplay. Oh, that's really good. Yeah, the rights holder for, so I'm sure you've probably noticed I don't want to spend too much time on Orwell, but when we were investigating Harrison, there's his band's page and you can play a song, and it's like, well, it's part of the experience, so I'll play the song. And it turns out that the rights holder for that will completely demonetize the video. So essentially, like, it's about 1 minute and 50 seconds of that video, and what they do is they will claim all of the revenues and viewership information from that video because of it. And I'm like, it would have been nice to just even be like, at least kind of warn me, right? So I'm late in putting the Orwell stuff up on YouTube because I've got some editing capability now. Apparently, to render the video based off of the file that Twitch gave me, it takes something like 5 or 7 hours. It's appalling. I'm sure I'm doing something wrong, but anyways, the program just gave me an estimate, and I'm like, okay, well, that's clearly something happening overnight. But that'll be going on YouTube as soon as I do it. Like, most of the time, I'm pretty sanguine about the copyright claims. That one really rubbed me the wrong way because, like, it's really not necessary for the game, and the fact that it was not just sort of like, hey, you can't monetize this thing, but it's like, everything that you did in this video, well, that's, because you put 1 minute and 50 seconds of this song inside of it, that's ours now. I do have some pretty strong beliefs. I actually do wish that there was a way that game developers could be compensated for streaming your games, or like for you streaming their games. I actually think like a claim system like what YouTube does, where there's sort of, if you're using copyrighted music and the creator's okay with it, some of the revenue gets directed there. Sometimes it's all the revenue. But I don't know, like a way, I do actually think that people, like, I do believe in intellectual property rights. Like, I do think that, I'm not really okay with the status quo of the fact that it is taken for granted that game companies are going to be okay with you streaming their stuff, and that if they don't say that they're okay with it, if they put some kind of a claim on you, that they're going to be seen as sort of the aggressor or doing the bad thing. Like, in the end, it is their game, it is their intellectual property, and they have not necessarily granted you the rights to that. And even though it may be good for business, it's not your play. It's kind of like me going into a store and saying, well, if you lowered prices, you'd sell more products. That could be objectively true, but it's still theft if I, if I take the item out of the store for a price less than what they sort of consented to sell it to me at. So the current framework is a mess, but I do think that, while, like, I guess I'd put it to you this way. If I had known, I just wouldn't have played the song, right? The band that plays the song, if they want to make sure that they're covered for it, Totally fine. Completely respect that. I kind of question the developer's choice of putting a song like that in. Surely there are other bands that are more okay with sort of sharing, or, you know, who could have used the money or whatever. You know, there's any number of factors that go in. Or alternatively, what a lot of games are doing now, just having the option to turn off the copywritten songs, or songs under copyright. You know, that's another big thing that's happening now. But yeah, just something about the idea of like a 5-hour stream where in that particular case, like I had actually taken the time to do some work, right? I'd read 1984. I specifically waited for those books to come into the public domain. You know, I was definitely bringing added value in terms of bringing the experience of playing the game Orwell and referencing it back to the material that we had prepared. Like, I think, unlike maybe some of the other types of streams that you can see where it is just sort of a recording of a play session without anything extra, I do actually feel that I can make a claim that there is something that is unique to me that I've brought to that creation, and I am entitled to, you know, the very meager amount of advertising that will come from that. And to sort of have someone say, it's like, yeah, but the presence of this song means that we're entitled to all of that, actually, you know, I just think is maybe a little too far on the you know, on the side of the owner of that music. So, you know, what this means now is that essentially I have a few hours out of my day that I carve out to, you know, mute that bit, and it's really inconvenient. But hey, Ben Skull, how you doing? Sorry, I'm whining about music copyright in Orwell. Thank you so much for the subscription. And I'll be honest with you, too, if the option was to share a portion of it, I'd actually be okay with that, because then it's like, okay, yeah, so people don't have to go up and look up the song if they want on their own, but they didn't, so now I'm doing it. But Ben Skull, thank you very much. The sub money is always appreciated. The kind words of sub to my favorite book narrator is definitely very good, very high praise. I can assure you there are many services that have excellent audiobook narrators, and I wish I could get to their level, but I suppose I'll only do that with practice, so maybe we'll make an effort to, you know, to get a few more of those done. But what I did want to do, I know I was talking a bit about Orwell. I did want to get on the note of intellectual property, I do want to just take a quick second here. It's not really an IP notice here, but it is a disclosure that Paradox has given me a copy of both the base game Stellaris as well as pretty much all of the DLC that I'm going to be playing. The exceptions to this will be the Humanoids and Plantoids DLC, which I bought on my own. And then I'm not playing I do not own the Necroids or Aquatics DLC, but all of the DLC that you're seeing here has been given to me for promotional purposes. And I mean, obviously I wouldn't be playing this game if I didn't enjoy it, but it is something that you need to say. So you've said this since you played Assassin's Creed Unity, but soothing. Yeah, thank you very much. It's a very common comment that I get, and while I'm by no means a particularly skilled streamer, I'm also not a complete bonehead on it. The decision not to have a camera, the decision to play games like Stellaris as opposed to maybe more... Like, so I really like games like Apex Legends, and I've played games like Wolfenstein: The New Order on stream. But generally I do tend to play strategy games like Stellaris simply because, one, I enjoy them, but two, because they're ones that allow me to do quite a bit of talking. So... it's comments like that which, of course, give me the information I need to make decisions like that, you know, to choose to play game A over game B. But I certainly never want to take them for granted, and I'm very happy to read them. So thank you. I also totally forgot that you came in during Assassin's Creed Unity. That's some time ago. I actually had another Assassin's Creed thing that I've been wanting to do forever, but there's so little time. Okay. Oh, Senior Q's flattering me. You have a charm about you, as is. You're very kind. So let's just take a quick look at the state of the world. I'm going to consider my resources. I'm going to take this number with a grain of salt. I know this does tend to change in the background. I should also just mention here that because there is a new patch coming out, I think I covered this before, but there is a new patch coming out in 2 days, so that might mess with the save file here. We'll see where it goes, but again, there's plenty we can do. There's plenty that we can think about for the game. Let's focus on the game. Issues, maybe it's too soothing for anyone like you who has to watch at 1 a.m. Easy to fall asleep. I actually don't consider that a bad thing. I know Twitch has done something to sort of adjust the viewer numbers and and sort of do some things to affect how your engagement is measured over those sorts of things. But I don't know, like I'm particularly happy with lurkers. I think they're largely a fuel for the channel, frankly. Look, I like sleeping. I don't get nearly enough of it, and if I can do something to help people get a good night's sleep, I consider that a public service. I don't actually consider that to be a defect. Because I mean, in the end, like I'll put it, I'm not going to deny myself any ability. Sorry to talk about myself so much because this is about Stellaris, but I despise this kind of like false humility of like there's a guy at work in particular who is like, for whatever reason, they've got a really good thing going at the workplace. It kind of seems to be that they're the kind of person it feels like they are able to not only do projects, but they're also responsible for measuring the success of the projects. And they make a lot of very dubious claims, particularly about technology, that are sort of taken as gospel, and other people need to work around them. So, needless to say, I don't think very highly of them. But one of the most irritating traits, and this is certainly not unique to this individual, but you all sort of know the false modesty of like, oh, if only I don't get me to do this thing, because I'll blow it up, ha ha ha. And I mean, obviously, when somebody says that, and they're the same sort of person who will walk around and say, if you use an Excel file, you should be fired, or, someone who is making some incredibly sort of niche technological decisions that are then becoming policies for entire groups to work with. There's nothing humble about that. It's the sort of false modesty that's apparently supposed to be disarming, but is actually just, it's incredibly false, and everybody kind of recognizes it for what it is at the time. So I really try to root out that trait in myself. But I'll go so far as to say I will not deny myself any ability in games. I think there are some games that I am decent enough at, insofar as one can be good at a game. Like it's a weird concept to have, right? If you're having fun, you're probably being good at the game. There are some games where I think I could either claim some skill or knowledge or, something a little bit special. But I don't actually think that's the reason people watch. And so, to be honest, like the falling asleep stuff is nice. And I figure if I'm wrong in that evaluation, if people are actually watching me because of the game, as opposed to the stuff we talk about during the game, there's the chance to, there's always the chance to review the VODs and things like that. So, hey, the exception, how you doing? And Olaf, will you take, you'll take your lurk, darn it. You'll like it. You're all very nice. Thank you. It's, again, I'm like I said, there's zero expectations for this Stellaris run here because I want to sort of refamiliarize myself with the session. But it's really nice to see the kindness coming through. I've been feeling really tired and worn out, so you never really know on the internet if you're going to get hit with like a wall of just awful or something nice. But I'm glad you're all being the wall of nice today. Not that you'd be anything else, but it's nice to feel appreciated. Okay, so we did finish the war. We do have an Empire Sprawl problem. I'm going to try and close off some of these borders, so we'll take Absha Min, and then at some point I do want to expand both to these 3 systems as well as finally claim these. But that's going to require a more efficient bureaucracy, and that's not like I've sort of got the foundations for that, but it's not completely accounted for, let's say. I believe we have some, yes. So the drug labs will help us out with our consumer goods, although again, that's a bit of a band-aid just given where, given how sort of short we are. Are we currently buying any? Doesn't look like it. What else did we have? Getting some decent numbers on crime, so I suspect this one they made a deal. Yeah, what about this one? Okay. So I think we just need to spend a little more time in these areas. I do think I should aim to try and vassalize someone. Now that's going to be a big fish to swallow. Let me just take a quick look here. Yeah, so there's still equivalent and equivalent, so I don't believe. Yeah, so we get the CB on them for a year. Our treaty with them, or our truce, is currently 6 years away. So one of the biggest reasons why... So again, I wanted to cut these guys down to size. Once I've done that, I want to vassalize them. It's actually better for me to have lots of vassals running around because it means that I get to have some more criminal enterprises running around. I have sort of a force that can sort of be used to push out my will. And I mean, it would be particularly nice if I could vassalize both the Loxon Grakva royal states as well as the Nar consciousness, because they're bordered right next to me. So it's a nice little, it's a nice little federation. Well, not federation, but a hegemony, I guess, that I can run with. Oh no, I'm so sorry to hear that, the exception. I don't know sort of the relative ages in that, but my mother passed away when I was in elementary school. And so I can never tell people I know what you're feeling, because everybody's relationship with their family is very different, and the circumstances are always very different, along with their different, with their personal circumstances. But that doesn't mean I can't express empathy. And it is something that I think a lot of us are going to have to deal with, but that doesn't soften it whenever it comes. So I am tremendously sorry to hear that. For what it's worth, actually, if it helps, one of the things that happened for me was, in order to try and bring some normalcy back into life, I was given a Star Wars game, which I actually really liked. And I, that's a game that actually stays... It's an indifferent game overall, I think, but it's one that sort of holds a bit of a special place for me. So I can definitely appreciate what gaming will provide in something like that. But really, I do wish you the best, the exception. You're someone who I'm always very happy to see inside of the channel. And as a result, as with a number of people here, really, I never like hearing that kind of bad news, and I really do hope that that life can get as close to normal as it can for you. Oh no, I'm also sorry to hear that for you too, Senior Q. And how you doing, Night Valian? This is indeed a game for nerds, but it's the most approachable game for nerds. It's actually something that it's probably one of the... I think Crusader Kings sort of seem to push the tendency towards people like more conventional gamers looking into Paradox Grand Strategy games, but I feel like Stellaris was a really big breakout for getting people into this stuff. If you want to tell us, the exception, what games have you been playing while we've been going through? Again, I'm sorry, I know we're like 20 minutes in and I haven't made much progress. I do know a few things about where we're going with the playthrough, but I'm going to make some progress. So I don't know. It's fine. I mean, life does not conveniently sort of stop and start. For like, it would be wonderful if it kind of happened at the times where we found things most convenient, and we do the best that we have, Night Valian. So obviously you couldn't have known. I'm happy to see you as well. I should play Dying Light just because you constantly rip into its writing, but we're back to Stellaris. I hope you're doing well, and I know I only say awful things about the RPGs. For those of you who don't know, Night Valian's been playing I think it's called Grindia HD lately. but it's he's apparently abandoned his Xbox or his Microsoft Game Pass and has been on a big JRPG run lately. But yeah, no, like I don't think people need to apologize for. There's like this is an older movie, but I don't know how many of you have seen a movie called A Fish Called Wanda. But there's this moment where the John Cleese character talks about the difficulty of being British, and it's like, you know, you have this tremendous paranoia of social embarrassment where like you'll even ask, you know, you don't want to ask, you know, oh, how are the wife and kids doing, because you can find out that, oh, you know, she left me for the, you know, the doctor, and, you know, the kids have denounced me or whatever. That's not the line, but, you know, it's one of these things I've always kind of tried to, you know, again, you want to make people as comfortable as possible. And I think part of it would be is that you want to have an environment in which people feel that it's okay to talk about tough subjects, either ones that are controversial or ones that are personal. And also it sometimes means that, you know, within reason, like there's something to be said for decorum. Like if somebody kind of comes in and says like a really inappropriate joke at a time when somebody is, you know, maybe expressing some vulnerability, not that that really often happens in chat, you know, that's the sort of thing you want to tamp down on. But I don't think people should like feel shamed or whatever for coming in, you know, with, you know, saying hi or anything like that. So you've been playing Pokemon Legends, SimCity, the one from the 2012s. It was on sale for $7, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Is the showing my age? Which am I? Are the games you mean? I'm trying to remember which one was from the 2012s. Or are you talking about the reference for A Fish Called Wanda? Like, I only know old movies, Night Valiant. I definitely didn't see that in theaters. I don't know if I was... When was that made? Well, it's got Jamie Lee Curtis in it. It can't be, like, outside my... That's me about 2001: A Space Odyssey. 1988, wow. I thought at least that was like a 90s movie. Cool. Anyways, it's a good film. But memorable. Okay, so the war's over, which is probably one of the bigger factors that I wanted to know. My long-term plan, so the way that I kind of like breaking up Stellaris for myself is sort of, there's the immediate term goals, which are, you know, is there an alert that I can deal with right now, and do I have the resources to handle it? There's sort of the medium-term goals of, all right, I'm going to be sort of laying the foundation for a few new steps. So for instance, my naval capacity is 259, but I only have 172 ships. So in this case, I've got room for 87. I'm pretty sure it's 87 new ships. Somebody can correct me on the math if I'm wrong on it. I think it's the most recent SimCity, and some people were upset that you couldn't expand from a square. Oh, yes. Okay, so I know exactly the one that you're talking about. I've never actually played it. I know that was an opportunity for City Skylines to really shine. I think a lot of people... expressed a preference for that. I don't actually have a strong position on it, because obviously I haven't played one or the other. I do have City Skylines, and I rather enjoyed it. But I do have the EA Origins subscription, so I really should try it, because SimCity is a wonderful game. Actually, oh, here's one. The Exception. Have you seen Hive Time? I can't remember if you were here when we played it. Anyways, so I was while I wait on chat for answering that, I'm gonna try and answer the. You have not seen it. Okay, let me just take a quick second here. This is a game by someone who I actually collaborated on a game with. So this game is a bee-themed city builder, which is very much inspired by the original SimCity. We're talking about the old 2D one. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, but it also wound up getting me in touch with Valiant Cheese, who's somebody I've collaborated with. He occasionally stops by the channel. So the nice thing about this one is that it's a pay-what-you-want game, so you would be able to sort of download it and kind of kick the tires to see if it's your sort of thing. But if you're looking for a few more things sort of along the lines of something that you might have enjoyed before, particularly if you have a fondness for SimCity and some of its classical iterations, although obviously you're referring to the newest ones, that is one that I'd definitely make a recommendation for. It also has some Twitch integration, which I've not... I don't think I've streamed it with a Twitch integration, or if I have, it was a very long time ago. So maybe we should give it another shot before too long. Anyways... that might be something up your alley. But yeah, I was talking about short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals. So medium-term goal would probably be something along the lines of get up to my maximum naval capacity. That can sometimes be a long-term goal, but honestly here it's just sort of setting one foot in front of the other as far as alloys are concerned. Now it is also important to remember that while that may seem like an obvious goal, it's also worth remembering of it in terms of the opportunity cost. So what am I giving up in order to achieve a maximum naval capacity? One, those alloys are not going into building an additional habitat. Those additional habitats would give me a larger population base, some of which could be put towards producing consumer goods, also could be going towards bureaucratic centers and research. I do feel that I'm sort of falling behind the curve as far as research is concerned, and I want to try and get back on track. But on the other hand, a strong fleet is going to be how I ultimately vassalize my neighbors and sort of try to make sure that I can sort of muscle my way through this playthrough. So, I sort of accept the hit in the name of kind of making sure that I'm in a position to both weather any storms, but also to take out potential rivals. I think City Skylines is better, but it doesn't always feel like a game because some of the goals don't really feel, like much of a challenge. You like SimCity, it's a bit more challenging, so it depends on what you're feeling. Oh, that's cool. Actually, I do like that there's enough variety between the two games. I actually want to play both. I sometimes struggle with a bit of paralysis in those kinds of games. It's one reason I quite like Surviving Mars, another Paradox game, because I feel that it kind of puts me towards goals a little bit better. But the thing is, I know people really like sandboxes. So the long-term goal for this one, of course, is to vassalize the Loxong Grakva Royal States and possibly the Nar Consciousness, although it's worth remembering that the Nar Consciousness is my ally. So we're actually in a defensive pact together. So at some point it might be nice to offer them subsidiary status, but the Empire population is definitely going to be something of a challenge. We'll see, right? I have a number of options as far as that goes. So one thing I'm going to take a quick peek at is just to see what the lay of the land is as far as bureaucracy is concerned. Okay, so we've got a bureaucratic station. We've actually also upgraded all of these administrative parks. So Subra 1's sort of off the list. I guess it's Subra 3 is my next administrative office, which of course makes sense. Okay, so let's say that bureaucracy is slowly going to be worked towards it. I also seem to remember I was going to do a bunch of population moving. I'll worry about that a bit later. So let's take another second here and just see the status of available jobs. Okay, so Grunner is focused on... Oh, right, it's my Gaia world, so... you can do a little bit of everything on this, it feels like. So I probably need to make a harder decision in terms of exactly what I want to do with it. I mean, you would expect with a Gaia world that probably research should be king just because of the overall satisfaction. So that would imply... Okay, so if that's true, that would imply 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more districts. That would mean that I can build 4 more here. And if I would build 4 more, that kind of eliminates the benefit of the mining districts. But that may not necessarily be bad. We'll think about it. I don't need to make the decision now because I've got 7 available jobs. We've got an agricultural world. Now that's going to need an improvement to expand the population. Oh yeah, actually all my worlds are Gaia worlds, so there's not necessarily one candidate or another for science. Although this one's probably a better candidate for science simply because it doesn't have that rich of an endowment of natural resources. So maybe what we do is we build some more city districts to unlock our building sites. Okay, yeah, we're starting to get somewhere here. Generator world, I don't know if that's a distinction that the game has given it or if this is in fact where we're headed. It's sort of in a similar position to... It's sort of in a similar position to that other world. I think I want to fill out the generators for sure. So that would leave us with... well, there's 5, but we've got 4 blocks, so that's a total of 9. So 7 after we do the generators, which would mean we can add another 5. We'd have 2 left over, which I'd either put into industrial districts or mining districts. Okay, this is definitely a science-oriented world. In fact, I wonder why I decided to put a slave processing facility on here. It could be because I can have slaves working on generators. That's exactly why. I do feel a little bad about enslaving the new Baal, but... okay, so Nadal is listed as a bureau... Oh, yes. Okay, so these are the worlds that I inherited from the Vanquished. Okay, so I definitely want to make sure that I've got... I think we've distributed enough of my... I think we've distributed enough of my people to, kind of keep order. What I am probably going to want to do is reorganize. So there's a question as to whether or not this world is best served as a bureaucratic world. Right now it's doing alloys and civilian industries, and I think that science would be something very good to pursue. Obviously, if the more science that I do, the more consumer goods I'm going to need, so I don't want to expand it too much. Looks like we're already on our way to a tech world with Kefra. Oh yeah, okay, I think I remember this. So I think I actually specifically assigned this as a science world. I wonder, can I replace this? Yes, I can replace it with a city district. So some of these farms I think I'm going to eventually switch for. In fact, I can probably do that now. Well, we've already got some people working as farmers. Although they can just as easily switch to clerks. Thing is, like, we don't need to maintain that many farms. Okay, so we will replace 2 farms with city centers. Actually, we can make an industrial district as well. We can also stick a gene clinic on there to make sure that we have population growth, and where I can, I would like to make sure that I've got... I want to make sure that I have some Raxar executives and enforcers on this world. Okay, this is going to be converted into a Gaia world as soon as I can. Okay, so Triumph will be active for 2845 more days, so a long time before we can convert Kelsoch, or Kelsoch. Kasalok. Let me just make sure that... Okay, yeah. I think I've got a good handle on what I want to do on these worlds. Okay. Overall goals, again, we're going to vassalize the Longsongrak Vav Royal States. I need to get my consumer goods back in order. I have a few different mechanisms that I can use to do that. I need to generate a surplus of bureaucracy. Ideally, what's going to happen is... Ideally, I'm going to have a surplus of bureaucratic administrative capacity, and we're never going to go into the red on that again. That's going to be kind of a little bit more restrained growth, but this is going to be hurting my tech overall. So I want to keep that under control. And then, eventually the plan is also just a very gradual program of, slow expansion towards particularly, precious resources. So like Hodranus is a great example of a world that I want because of the rare crystals, but something that's going to be something that's developed over time. So I think after all that, we're ready to unpause and see where it goes. What's happening with the resolutions? We are currently voting for cooperative research channels. Yep, I'm fine with that. A higher starbase upkeep's going to hit me in the alloys, but I can work with that.
Resource scan complete. Construction complete.
Okay, that's working as intended. Eventually we'll do an upgrade, but I've got quite a bit... it's going to be quite a bit of demand for my alloys for the next little while. In fact, I should... I know because we now have a galactic market, there's going to be points where this number sort of jumps up. But I kind of want to get an idea of what the... I shouldn't even call it the equilibrium. There we go. Yeah, so it looks like around 670 the AI is going to buy up goods, or buy up alloys. So maybe that's the time where I sort of sneak in my purchases. So we can just watch the pattern again. Yeah.
Technology discovered. Rad.
Okay, atmospheric filtering, habitability +5. By adjusting atmospheric filtering on a per-site basis to better filter out undesirable elements, colonial living conditions may be improved. Okay, so terrestrial sculpting's kind of tempting because of the terraforming, but we do have that Bale seed, so it makes it a little bit harder to justify putting resources into that tech. Now, one thing that is happening to our rating for technology is that we're lacking certain early techs, which is producing this case where the game rates me as being lower tech than I actually am. I'm not 100% sure how that score works. So I do want to pursue lower end tech, but in this case here, we're sort of fighting between terrestrial sculpting and hostile environment adaptation. And in this case, hostile environment adaptation sort of helps just the general habitability measure, which is a little bit more directly useful than spending money on terrestrial sculpting, when really it's just a matter of time before everything becomes a Gaia world. Okay, acquire asset. Asset identified. As the operation nears its conclusion, Spymaster Coxerum has moved to secure our asset within the Nar consciousness. Our remaining operatives are poised to facilitate any cover that he may need. Commence the operation. Asset acquired. Spymaster Coxerum reports from the Nar consciousness. A successful execution so far. Our spy network is now bolstered by access to part of the network on which the Nar consciousness operates. Should we wish to obscure our movements against the machine entity? I don't think that's a machine entity. I think that's a different type of consciousness, but send it false information or otherwise interfere with it, its own protocols may now be weaponized against it. Okay. Good news there. I may want to just do another... operation right away. So our cap right now is 70. We do have a pretty weak view into what's happening in the Nar consciousness, but we're also... the fact of the matter is I don't really have a lot of criminal enterprises to sort of expand. At some point I would like to, but that is going to require outlays of influence, which maybe I don't have available to me at the moment. So it wouldn't be bad to sort of put in the groundwork now to accumulate a lot of assets, and then just let time go by to sort of grow that network back up. If I thought I was going to be doing operations against the Nar consciousness sooner, I wouldn't want to be putting in those investments. But now I actually think it's not a bad idea to just spend the infiltration that I have right now, realize that my network is going to be broadly weakened in terms of short-term abilities, but it does mean that when the time comes to sort of get to that 90, 100 level, I'm going to be much better positioned. So we'll do another acquire asset. I should actually also check to see that is... No, neither of those are very helpful. So we can tempt or coerce operatives and other assets who would be of use to our intelligence operations, recruiting them for a price. Assigning an asset to this operation may skew the results towards their interests. I should probably figure out what I'm doing ship-wise. I think I've kind of neglected my shipyards. Yeah. Okay. So I don't have my tablet beside me, but I'm going to just bring up a text file really quick. First thing I'm going to do is check my tabs, because sometimes I have... God, a lot of work stuff. I promised I would never do work stuff on my personal computer, but... Interesting. I think this is close to what I had originally had in mind, but I think my ideal fleet looks different now. So 5 cruisers, 10 destroyers, 20 corvettes. Nope, that's where we're at. Okay. So actually, we're not that far off, so it looks like it's really just a question of 3 more destroyers, which would be consistent. That's the 60 remaining. Okay, actually, we're in a much better shape than I thought we'd be. Excuse me. So let's go to... I never find the... Like, the fleet manager is something that I still haven't quite come to terms with. Where did it go? But I don't know. I like keeping it in at the very least as like a reminder. So okay, so we'll have one more I owe you one more destroyer, and then if the yeah, so if it's 60 for the command limit, and I've got 85 left for...
This tech head better.
So if I have 85, if I have space for 85 more command points for ships, that basically to me implies either 2 more fleets or 1 more fleet and a an upgrade to the capacity. Obviously, that means that we go over the limit, but going over the limit on naval capacity is not quite the same as going over on Empire Sprawl. Okay, self-evolving logic, introspective prioritization. More shooty is always nice, but I think it might be an idea to do the planetary power grid. One other factor that I'd forgotten is we do have the option to open the L gate now. So the question is, when do I want to beat myself with that stick? Basically. Our fleets are okay, but not outstanding. 8.4K is a decent enough ship. It's one that I think makes me strong in the... makes me strong in the galaxy, but it's not necessarily the sort of thing where I would want to be, where I can take on sort of like the Grey Storm or Grey Tempest on its own. And more importantly, I am a bit constrained on my influence as well as my expansion possibilities. So by opening up the L gate, I'm starting a land grab where I maybe don't necessarily have the resources to be able to maintain that. So I do want to factor into my planning like a soft deadline for opening the L gate and exploiting it, but now may not be the best time for that. I would prefer something like quantum field manipulation, but we are going to go for energy nexus here just because it's a low-cost tech. Do I have a specialist that I can throw at that? I know the current worker is pretty good at everything, so. Also, I neglected to look at the prices, so. It's down to $6.99. So it looks like 691 is sort of where the AI decides to step in. So I'll start nibbling away in... Once it gets to sort of the 690s, I'll nibble and try and make sure that the AI is not the only one who... Ah! Actually, here's an idea. So this is like, I'm kind of just putting in the limit. So 7's a bit expensive to pay, but it just means that I can't do it for fractional amounts. So this sort of makes sure that once the price goes down, I'm able to snap them up before the AI does. The AI is able to sort of monitor that forever. I'm not. So okay, so this was the planet that didn't have much in the way of Raxarai, and it's easy to see why. Like, it's unpleasant for them to live on. But I do have unemployment, and I want to make sure that we do spread our people around the world. So, wrong habitat. Oh, that was unexpected. Okay. So yeah, we'll move the clerks to... So I still have unemployment, but... And then I should maybe also see what Natraxi and Vengral are good at. Okay, so neither of them are good scientists, so I can sort of throw them at whatever. We do have a lot of jobs available here, so... But I don't know if I have... I don't know if these are very good slave jobs. So maybe we can deposit them on Castor Prime. So this sometimes gets to be a bit of murder on my influence, but I think we have enough... Nope. 23 to build the starbase. Again, I want to try and tamp down on this stuff as quickly as I can. Siluria Prime... So this is the sort of stuff where, like, I should be able to handle this on its own. Yeah, we're building a city district, so we're fine there. I think I said... I'll build 2 more of those just to make sure that we've got something for some of the other workers. I may want to pull back from the farming on this world as well. It looks like we do already have the food processing facilities, but I can always switch that around. We, I think, just have better farming worlds. Or do I? Yeah, so Calsoc is definitely going to become the farming world when all is said and done. We're definitely not equipped for that right away. And you'll notice that our consumer goods are slowly closing the gap. I believe that is with the construction of the concealed drug labs. So again, we're not out of the woods on it, but it's one of these things where as time goes by, we're going to have more people filling those roles. The thing that I'm really trying to do, again, when we're talking about sort of those short, medium, and long-term goals, is to make sure that, like, the expansion plans that I have, I don't mind running deficits. I don't mind sort of keeping, I don't mind sort of like holding things back for certain periods of time, if it means that, like, just so long as I know we're on a trajectory to balancing the books. So for instance, as long as I'm able to cover my consumer goods obligations with my reserves, I'd happily run deficits on consumer goods for 100 years if what it ultimately gets me is something that will balance out my consumer goods needs and not make that a restriction for my expansion. Generally, I've been able to manage that. The one case where I haven't managed that well is Empire Sprawl, and that is one that actually tends to create stagnation in my empire. So that's one of those things I'm trying to get a better grip on, which is largely what Subra 3 is about. All right, the governor has gained a trait. Whispers and rumors concerning possible ties to organized crime has surrounded Governor Fargalek. Oh no! The mob bosses have ties to organized crime? For some time now, the governor has dismissed these claims as malicious libel invented by political rivals, but recent evidence suggests that there may be more to it than that. Okay.
This tech had better generate some revenue.
So I think we're just going to fire this guy. Kind of need to keep the crime down. All right, so we have synthetic crystal plants. So if I get desperate, we can convert some minerals into synthetic crystals. But I always feel like it's better to, like, if we can get access to the naturally occurring resource, that's generally better for us because it means we have more slots available for things like research. But again, it's an option open for me. The crystallization process is complicated and difficult, but synthetic crystals can be manufactured using specialized industrial plants. And I'm going to follow my usual pattern here of trying to go for the cheap tech where I can. But obviously if there's exceptions. So, at some point, getting habitat expansion would be really good, particularly because it lets me sort of double down on a few of my bureaucratic stations. But in this case here, like weather control systems, it's not super exciting, but it's cheap. It will raise the overall level of my technology. It's one of these things you got to do. Like you have to research that at some point. So, okay, this should fill out the last of my third fleet.
Planetary exploitation forecast complete.
Let's make sure we don't have any science ships that are idle. Nope, we're good. And we can build a starbase, so I'll get that sorted. We also are sitting on quite a few energy credits, so it's 933. So I'm going to wait till we're either at 12 or this number goes down to 10. And then I'm going to buy 10k worth of alloys. I'm very disappointed that I'm not able to participate in this market.
Prospect analyzed.
Our deep cover operatives have stepped up their surveillance on potential targets.
Complete.
Acknowledged.
Prospect analyzed.
All right, so it looks like 9 is the new price here. You know what? I'll buy up here, and I'm going to change. All right, so that should finance. All right, so why is Tenica Station? Oh, I know why.
Complete.
It's because it has defensive platforms, and it's supposed to. So there is a question as to whether or not I want to keep the anchorage there. I actually think that I think more shooty is better. A trade hub will give additional collection range, so that'll give me another trade point. I think I'm actually gonna... I feel silly doing it, but I'll actually put the extra point down there. I can build additional defensive platforms, and there might be a good argument for doing that. Those are 285 a pop. So I can build 3 of them. I think I'm gonna hold off for now. Let's start by building out our fleet. Okay, what did we lose here? Volatile ammunition and focusing crystals. Neither of those I want to eat the cost for right now. So this bastion, what's going on here? Okay, so it got an upgrade, but it doesn't know what we want to do with it. So we'll give it a missile battery. I think there's less of a reason for us to think about. There's less reason for us to think about trade. So let's give it another hangar bay. And we'll build a disruption field generator. Okay, I always go for planetary administration as soon as it becomes available. Dolak Habitat, again, has... So all of the habitat stations, you know, they're full up, so they're kind of my source for new workers. Okay, so we got a clerk who's going to be mad that they're going to Kelsoch. Overall, it's looking good, though, as far as the demographics. Like, I should probably eventually start building out a few other types of jobs, but... what was this? Volatile reactive armor again. That was a war measure, so we're fine there. Sorry, I said I was going to build another fleet. So, let's go start with the cruisers. I may need to reconsider my overall placement of star bases at some point, but for the time being, I think what we'll maybe try and do is grow our way to building more star bases as opposed to relocating the existing ones. A great example here would be I definitely want one on this wormhole. I will eventually want one on this wormhole as well, and it seems to me better to build a new one on the Shorax wormhole rather than move the platform that's on Thirish. Confidence wavers. A group of auxiliary operatives in the Narc consciousness has begun shying away from their assigned tasks, citing a lack of confidence in their overall purpose. Spy Master Coxerin would typically handle such matters without bringing them to our attention, but even without knowing any details, these operatives seem unusually well informed about Operation Acquire Asset, and perhaps the spy network as a whole. Given that these auxiliaries are kept isolated from our more active and better informed agents, Coxerin suspects that the operatives are being fed information from an outside source. He also concedes that they may simply be highly perceptive individuals. Given these doubts and the threats posed to Operation Acquire Asset by each scenario, Spy Master Coxerin requests a directive on how to proceed. So you can say the risk is too great, cut them loose. That's going to lose us cash, and then it will increase the difficulty. And then we have a very small chance of unwavering insight. We've actually gotten pretty lucky on these ones historically. Alternatively, panicked operatives, and that will likely increase the difficulty. I do want to see the overall penalty for panicked operatives, so we'll see where these insights may lead. Oh, our branch office on the Gleaming Shell inside the Enlightened Kingdom of Khan Aramis was recently forced to close after mass arrests made by the local authorities. It seems that a recent reduction in crime on the planet enabled their law enforcement agencies to focus their efforts on disrupting our operations. That is a big hit to the economy. Yeah, that was definitely worth something. Unfortunate. Panicked operatives. Our auxiliary operatives and the Nar consciousness have reacted with horror upon learning the truth of their once intangible suspicions. Spymaster Coxerm revealed only a glimpse of the bigger picture to them, but it was sufficient to disrupt our supply lines. Our ability to subvert Naran encryption is reduced for a time. So, I guess the thing that's interesting here is that, so the Lost Auxiliary Operatives, it seems that the risky option, like the funny thing here is that the risky option seems to have a lower penalty than the guarantee. So, like, you impose a guaranteed loss if you cut them loose. You have to spend 600 energy, and maybe the duration's different. But yeah, in this case, we endure +2 operation difficulty, whereas the other event would give us the +2 operation difficulty and the cost of the 600 credits. So yeah, curses. I'll be mad about it for a little bit, and then we'll move on. Okay, this is going to cost 110 to build. I do think it's worth it because of the branch office value, but this is definitely going to kind of play havoc with my my finances. I just kind of want to see what happens in the market now that I've got my limited. Yeah, so I indirectly, basically, I wind up driving up the price of alloys. That's not
Technology
the worst
acquired.
for me, I suppose. Energy Nexus. A re-engineered and unified grid further reduces energy losses over distance. Okay, so as usual, we go for the cheap tech, chemical plants. Even though I'm not really going to use it, gives me a chance. I want to see what the market for. So it looks like consumer goods are actually quite inexpensive. So this is always a dangerous game to play. Let's say 5. 5 is the most I'm willing to spend on this for now. Senate's now in session to form the Galactic Council. Now, again, my expectation would be that I'm going to be on that Galactic Council. We've surpassed the Nar consciousness. I'm going to be sort of the junior member, but still important. This is definitely one which I want to go into, because I think I'm going to sort of be able to worm my way into important works.
We built something.
Against my better judgment, I'm also going to upgrade my fleet. So this is going to eat my alloys for a bit, but I probably want to get that dealt with sooner rather than later. Okay. Very unlikely we'll do that archaeological expedition. We built the mining station, which is good, so we're going to move... I've kind of got all my construction ships where I want them, but I guess I'll move them to Torville. And for... I'll do an audit of my...
Another bleeding-edge technology discovered.
Or habitability. Further study into the hazardous environments found on other planets help alleviate the difficulties that colonizers encounter in their day-to-day lives on foreign worlds. So I guess the hyper entertainment forums are my lowest cost tech. Okay, there's a few developments that are happening here. Ah, okay, that's going to have some consequences. A short list of targets has been drawn up. Those operatives who are no longer tasked with surveillance will provide cover for the others. So what was the deal, though? So I was paying 205 for 15. Definitely worse than the prices that I'm facing here. So actually, let's before I go any further, let's take a quick second here, see who likes us and who we might be able to make some trade deals with. Okay, how many alloys are you willing to give me? Okay, so up to 25. How much do you want for them? That can't be right. Sorry. I'm just using a calculator here. I'm not... Try to do it in my head, but it's... Okay, so they want $14.92 for that. That's definitely a worse deal than what we had before. Now, if I cut that number in half... What? Yeah, okay. Those numbers don't work for me. It's better to just buy those on the open market. So really, this is just what I'm kind of trying to do here is establish like what the rate I'm going to be paying for. That is an incredibly good deal if that's true. Let me just see that number again. So 428 for 54 alloys. That's 792 an alloy. So I believe that is... Yeah, so that's 2 less than what I would be buying. Okay, so I want to make this deal work. I want to maybe be careful that I'm not spending it all on alloys. So the limit's 54. So maybe knock down to 34. Okay, I just want to make sure that the economics of that one makes sense. 648, yeah, so my cost per alloy is quite good. Okay, the Tecarus link, we have decent enough relations, but I suspect I'm not going to be able to get as good of a deal in this case. Yeah, so... Oop. Oops. Let's try and make something a little more modest for an opener. So there's no way I'd do this deal because that would lose me money over the long run. But what am I paying for alloys in that? 756. Okay, so I'm obviously paying too much on the open market. So if we cut that down to 24. Again, I want to make sure that the numbers still make sense on this. So 182 at 24 is 758. I can work with that. Is that your final offer, Roxari? How about some extra minerals to sweeten the deal? Nope, we'll take it. And Vitecarus, your terms are acceptable, Raxar. Okay, so we'll let the month turn over to see what the consequences for my overall budget is going to be. I think I'm also going to adjust my price. So I'm willing to pay the 8 per unit, but I'm like lowering my open market price just because these trade deals are working for me. And yeah, we're below 100 now in terms of energy, so I should probably secure some more more offices when the time comes. We're close to that for our influence, but. Snuffed out, Spymaster Coxum reports that our team of operatives near the Nar consciousness has missed a number of checkpoints. Given the nature of the operation, we had already anticipated them being unable to maintain their frequent contact. However, our Spymaster is regrettably confident that by now the team has been lost. Operation Acquire Asset may be rescued if we can successfully cover our tracks, pitting our code breaking against Narn encryption. So make it so there's a medium to low chance that our actions will go unnoticed depending on our target's encryption. So not crazy about... Let's give it a shot, but we are going to lose the influence for it.
Technology discovered. Rad!
The ability to alter a planet's weather patterns to suppress the destructive weather phenomenon will make residential buildings easier to maintain and open up new areas for habitation. Spring cleaning. Hello, Rexari. Would you be willing to do us a favor? Baldorak's strong gravity well pulls all kinds of trash into our atmosphere, and at a recent council meeting, we decided to step up our cleaning efforts. One of our reclamation units came across a discarded cargo pod, and we're wondering if you'd be willing to help us dispose of it. It seems to contain large quantities of various worthless metals. Yes, we will dispose of these minerals for you. So 1,000 minerals. I mean, it's not. I'm not like popping the champagne cork, but like that is a third of my mineral holdings, and we are building quite a bit of infrastructure. So, okay.
Anomaly detected.
So it is tempting to do the long-range mineral scanners. Alloy mega forges, again, that would be an upgrade for the alloy. So this one, in addition to being cheap, is something that will give me a direct benefit now. A wavering signal haunts Hixar 2, though it does not seem to originate from the planet's surface. Okay. Want to take a second and just review... Successful cover-up. Though it has greatly taxed the resources of Spymaster Coxrum's work in the Nar consciousness, operational security has been reasserted. All loose ends have been covered, all cover identities discarded. A new team of operatives will take over from here, enacting a subtly different set of orders under our Spymaster's watchful gaze. The Narn, meanwhile, seem oblivious to our presence. So I'm just thinking about how I can reestablish that...
Planetary
office.
exploitation forecast complete.
Was it Gleaming Show? I mean, it's 10 now, so... But it's also like my only option. Okay, we will do the ransomeers, but I just wanted just another quick investigation of the territory. Yeah, so that's already producing some decent cash. These are more expensive than they're worth. Sorry, I keep losing Gleaming Shell. Okay. So yeah, we need 110 influence. I'm willing to eat the rest of it, but... But yeah, that's going to be my next expansion target. The Ransomeer's Emergency Buoy. An emergency transmission buoy floats in gentle orbit around Hixar 2. Its outer casing is heavily damaged, seemingly by a glancing weapons fire or powerful explosion. It might be a Raxan model for civilian ships, designed to be ejected as an emergency measure should the comm system fail, but the extent of the damage makes it impossible to know for certain. It's repeating a weak, distorted signal. Clean up the transmission.
Log updated.
So we'll put that at the top of the queue. I'll have to reassign that to work afterwards, but I can live with that. And I'm going to have to up my order on consumer goods.
Research
Mind you,
complete.
the price is still very inexpensive, so... Nope. We'll add another 5. The buoy has been verified as one of Raxaran make, and the signal it's relaying has been stabilized. Raxaran authorities, identify yourselves. Hello? This is the captain of the Luxion, a Raxaran civilian transport. Former captain, the Luxion is gone. We were boarded by pirates and taken captive before they blew up the ship. Who captured you? I think they call themselves the Ransomeers? The Ransomeers? At any rate, they're a vile bunch. We'd all be dead already if they didn't think that they could get something for us from the Natraxian rum runners. I've overheard them discussing their demands. We will rescue you. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Oligarch. We're being held in some space station, but I have no idea where we are beyond that. I will increase the transmission burst for now. It should let you triangulate the location of this prison from the emergency buoy.
Log updated.
All right, where are these guys? Okay, do I even have... Alright, so it's going to take me a while on the fleet. It's a little... It's kind of like killing a fly with an anvil to like send one of these fleets out for it, but I don't want to send the war form just in case it's not strong enough. And we are receiving a transmission from the independent space station of the Curator Order. They appear to have successfully translated our language. Greetings, Star Travelers. We are the Curators. Our ancient order was established eons ago by the various galactic powers in ascendancy at the time. We were dedicated towards the preservation of all knowledge, in an effort to safeguard the galaxy from descending into yet another dark age of mass extinctions and barbarism. We failed. Few of us remain today, but we are no less committed to our sacred mission than our predecessors were. We are willing to share some of our knowledge with you for a price. Well met. So I'd like to have a little bit more cash than what I actually do, but this is a very good one. So can you aid us in our research? We possess detailed star charts of the entire galaxy, gathered by explorers from 100 different races. Perhaps they will be of interest to you? Can you aid us in our research? Of course, we are prepared to offer you limited access to our extensive databanks for a period of 10 standard years. This should provide a significant boost to the research efforts of your planet-side research labs. We will require compensation for this service, naturally, but I think you'll find that our prices are very reasonable. So this will cost us 5,000. Yeah, that's actually very reasonable. So 5,000 for the insights for 10 years. I just need to factor that into my budget. And we've got time for another tradition. So we can go for mastership rights to reduce the build cost and build speed. We could do the Great Game to improve damage versus star bases. If I get master ship rights, then that opens war games, which will increase the fleet command limit. So there's two arguments for going down this path. One, we're not currently fighting star bases. Number two, we are building out our navy, but on top of that, getting the improvement to the command limit is going to help me with the weird numbers that I have in my naval capacity. So it's kind of both of these are in line with what my current goals are. Again, I like kind of doing that division in terms of short, medium, long goals, because in the end they wind up informing some of the decisions that I make in terms of my paths down traditions. So, mastership rights. The ever-increasing scope of our shipbuilding programs has led to the creation of highly skilled and efficient labor forces at our shipyards. Methods have continually been refined, and the time it takes to go from hull plating to completed starship is now shorter than ever before. So there is a subtle push in terms of my Unity. So basically, I would like to have, if possible, three new entries in terms of my traditions. So that's to fill out war games and the Great Game, but it's also so that I can get the Overlord or whichever tradition is about vassalization, because of course our long-term goal is to vassalize the Loxongrakva royal states. All right, aside from the obvious safety concerns, the artificial creation of volatile motes is an extremely delicate and complicated process that requires highly specialized equipment. Again, that's one we picked up mostly because it was a cheap tech. Quantum field manipulation, I think, is the next cheapest. So my alternatives would be plasma accelerators and advanced research complexes. All of these quite valuable and important for me, but the ability to get a 20% bonus from my technicians, particularly at a time where I'm feeling the pinch as far as financing is concerned because of all the alloys I'm buying, this is a good time for me to take advantage of that. And we've got our 110 influence, so we can open up on Gleaming Shell again. No, we can't. The local authorities recently closed our branch office on this planet and are still on the watch for our agents. I wish it would give us a kind of deadline for when that became available. Now, I suppose, in the grand scheme of things, I could try opening some bases. Well, I guess we closed off that option because we're sort of weakening my my spy network in order to acquire assets in the Nar consciousness.
Prospect analyzed.
I think it's fair to say we're probably not going to be opening any branches for the next little while. I don't want to do it for the Loxongrakva Royal States because we're just going to close them again when we go to war. So, I think, against my better judgment, I may be going to expand my borders. So thinking that every time I expand my borders, I'm imposing a big cost on myself, I think I'll take... See, I'd like to take Pandil because of its research. Jinkath is the more direct. No, I should take Pandil just because it kind of closes everything off. So I'll start with Pandil, Jinkath, Hadranus, because that gives me access to the crystals. And then maybe what we'll do is we'll take Vestalis, and then we could maybe consider moving into this region. It is good to have the megastructure, but we're not going to work on the megastructure right away. So.
Forecast complete. Another bleeding-edge technology discovered.
Hyper-entertainment forums. These massive entertainment complexes is where dreams come true. Shopping malls, restaurants, amusement parks, virtual arcades, and more. You dream it, we are it. Looks like I'm getting more fleet command limits. I could go for the revitalization centers. So these would be temporary anyway, but not bad to have. Well, yeah, we'll do the reactive formations. It might be a while before I use them, but... And as the operation nears its conclusion, Spymaster Coxarum has moved to secure our new asset within the Nar consciousness. Our remaining operatives are poised to facilitate any cover that he may need. So commence operation. All right, Fronds of Gold. The legacy of the Vengralian Trium is also the legacy of the Orion Star Merchants. They are no longer with us, but the prescribed quotas must still be met. Let's see what the wares are. We offer you Trium brand bunk beds. These innovative, space-efficient stockable sleep receptacles increase the habitation potential of planetary housing, allowing you to squeeze in more per capita per square meter. All this for the low price of 2 specialist pops. We may need some help with the bookkeeping. A one-time delivery to a single colony only. Bunk beds are guaranteed to last 80 years and no longer. Increases housing by 10% for the duration. Carefully considered distribution of bunk beds not included. Use of the bunk beds is correlated with a drastic increase in mild injuries caused by falling out of bed. May cause privacy concerns. May increase societal vulnerability to seasonal contagions and/or pandemics. Not interested. I feel like giving up 2 specialist pops so that you can get a temporary housing So the big thing for me, I never like temporary housing increases, because generally when you put populations in places, there's no rule saying you have to keep them there, but generally you kind of expect to have your labor and capital to be staying the same or going up on a planet. You know, ideally it's only staying the same if you've hit your capacity. Generally you want it to go up because, of course, that means that you're getting more stuff. You're getting more research, you're getting more alloys, you're getting more energy, you're getting, whatever. So if you build a planet with the idea of like a 10% increase in housing capacity, like if you're building the planet using that advantage and then it goes away after 80 years, what you're left with is this, this ticking time bomb of discontent, just sort of waiting to hit you. Now, if you're in one of these situations where like over 80 years, you sort of feel like you're going to be able to build into better capacities, like maybe that's going to give you time to research a technology that'll achieve that. There's a couple of arguments that you can do along those lines, but honestly, I don't really feel like there are some things where I'm like, yeah, a temporary boost will make sense for that. Like a temporary boost to research, sure, that makes sense. It gives you a better foundation. Like you'll have a better foundation on which to work on. Your expectations of how quickly you find new technologies may be distorted because, of course, once that bonus goes away, you're at a lower level of research. And you've researched the cheap stuff, so it's only the expensive stuff left. But even then, right, assuming you've directed the research well, you'll be having things like, more advanced research facilities, or you've used them to be able to expand. The thing about the population is that I don't really see a way that you can expand your population in a way that it will allow you to house more population. Like that's on the cost side of the ledger. So generally I don't find that, I probably wouldn't even accept that one as a gift maybe as a gift, but other than that, I don't particularly like those bonuses just because they tend to be ones that in the long run I don't think serve my interests. All right, Spymaster Coxarum reports from the Nar Consciousness a successful execution so far. We have laid claim to the part of the Nar Consciousness entity, an asset which will allow us to interfere with the Hive, obscure our movements against it, and much more. And there's our extra mining station output.
We built something.
So increased scanner range will allow us to more quickly identify mineral concentrations and focus our mining efforts there. It's been a while since we've... sorry, not a while. I've been waiting to get access to robot workers for a while, and the time has come, it looks like. How you doing, Index Gnome? All right. Yes, I do like the idea of robotic workers. We need more bodies to throw at our problems. There was another thing I was going to look for. Right, my ships, which are still probably getting an upgrade. 74% though. And did we... Yes, we have expanded on Pandil, so we'll do the research stations and then the mining output. Given that we can't expand the corporate offices, I think I'm just going to go and scoop up the last of these territories. Again, it's breaking my soft commitment not to let the Empire Sprawl grow too rapidly, but getting access to the rare crystals is kind of important for me. What on earth is happening here? That must have been because of our monthly trade triggered. I'm not going to worry too much about that. If it happens again, I may change my mind, but okay. Well, lucky me. So under normal circumstances, I would pick up Kirax because in addition to being one of the younger scientists, both of them are 46, you get the extra leader lifespan of 25. So in this case, I kind of treat it as having a 21-year-old scientist. Obviously, in that case, I'm like, that's about 80 years of guaranteed improvement. Working as always, but starting to get hungry, so you might need to do something about that. I have food. I actually did a really bad thing. I kind of fell off the... Does it count as falling off the wagon, or did I jump back on the wagon? Anyways, I stupidly put Uber Eats back on my phone, and like, especially this weekend, not only was I eating garbage, but I was spending way too much money on it. So today, it wasn't a deliberate course correction, but what had occurred to me was like, I had a breakfast and I haven't had anything else. And now that you mentioned it, I am feeling a bit peckish, but like not super hungry. But I'm maybe not entirely sure that starvation is the right counter, particularly because I've already spent the money. Did you see the light? I don't know. Like it's sometimes I find like there's two things that sort of drove it. For a while I did find it convenient. If I was like late to a stream, and then eventually I said, it's like, well, no, that's the wrong set of incentives. You know, if I need to make dinner and I'm late for a stream, that means I should make dinner earlier, and I will, you know, if I don't, I will either feel bad about making the stream late, or I will feel very hungry for not having made dinner. So, and it helped. Like I was actually getting a lot better at making dinner for myself. But the one of the things that sort of helped push me to the dark side, it's been really cold here. There's definitely been a couple of like minus 20 days, and particularly when I'm short on something like that I need, it's very, very convenient to just order something in. But then you get back into that habit. So again, I came up with sort of increasingly strained like justifications of where in reality I should have just stopped being lazy. So yeah, at this point it's just, okay, course correct, make sure it's not on the phone, save myself, make sure I save some money. Like the biggest thing for me honestly is just the money thing. Like it's not like I'm looking and I'm like, oh God, I'm going to pay 20% interest on my credit card because I did Uber Eats. No, it's like it's going purely into my discretionary income. But again, my goal that you know, July is coming up, and that beautiful goal of saying like there's no more money that I owe anyone is something I'm really determined to get. And so, you know, if I were to actually sit down and plan out a month, it's like, how good am I going to feel to like not have to pay the bank to to borrow money from them? How happy am I going to feel to buy a book, which I will read and get a lot of satisfaction from over time? You know, how happy am I going to be to not have to cook and have, you know, very tasty food, but maybe something that's not the best for me? You know, when you sit down and like reason it all out, there's very, very few justifications for it. Especially when I consider like probably a third to half of the cost of that order just as purely the fees and like delivery charges and all of that. But of course, if you're thinking in short term, and like generally if it's like, oh yeah, I don't want to feel cold like going out and getting groceries, you know, generally you're not employing that kind of, you know, good thinking. So I need to get back in the good habits, but still on track. Late stream is stuff we should expect when you put yourself. Yeah, it's I try and do the balance, but the biggest thing for me is that I feel bad about starting streams late, and it does mean that I end the stream at a later time, which means that the things that I do after stream. So one of the things I try and do is like do the stream, read, fall asleep. And if I go later, then either I give up the reading, which isn't good, or I try and do other things which will involve me being in front of a computer monitor before going to sleep, and that always, you know, doesn't lead to a high quality sleep. So, you know, it's better. I try not to be too rigid in terms of my planning, but the biggest thing for me, yeah, is to just make sure that it's like, okay, yes, there are corners to be cut, but like maybe if I just make sure that, you know, when I feel really bad that I don't start a stream on time, channel that into a positive behavior, which is, you know, one, cooking is not that hard. Two, you know, it costs less and generally tastes better if you do it yourself. And you know, the finance side is big for me. Like, it's just, you know, it would be nice to see more of that money to go towards things that I think are like long-term improvements. There's a new edition of the algorithms book that's coming out in March, I think. So like, you know, every dollar. Now I don't need that. I don't need that for my work. I don't need that for anything. It's just, you know, algorithms are interesting, and it's going through a textbook like that is a good exercise to you know, sharpen your mind, just learn something new and things like that. So obviously if I could redo this month over, you know, the amount that would be spent on food delivery would be zero. And all of that money would go towards something that will, you know, I don't know if it'll make me smarter, but at least it'll give me some practice. But, you know, again, any kind of convenience purchase like that is largely predicated on the fact that you will, you know, your short-term decision-making is not always going to be aligned with what you would do if you could sit down and plan everything out for the month. Yeah, Ben Skull. I struggled with it too when I was in university, but that one was a slightly different incentive structure because my commute to school was something like 90 to 120 minutes one way. So the like that was really at the point where I was starting to like the time that I would take on anything that wasn't like that involved moving to or from campus really kind of came at a premium. But it, you know, it's in the end, like people obviously, like, the reason why we all go to work or, you know, found a business, or like the reason why we all like do what we do is to earn money so that we can get the things that we like, and getting like the convenience of delivery, like buying that extra time, or, you know, getting something that tastes nice that you can't make yourself or whatever. Like, those are all completely legitimate purchases. It's, you know, I always hate it when you have those financial gurus, and it's like, you know, you either turn on the radio or like you see a YouTube video or something like that, and they're haranguing someone for like buying a Starbucks, and they're like, you're literally pissing away this month every month, and it's like, you know, if you like coffee, like that might be the reason you're going to work, right? You know, to be able to enjoy something like going and sitting in a cafe. Like, there's a place that I like in terms of like eating out. Like, there's a place near. Sorry, I'm spending so much time on this, but like, there's a local place, you know, tattooed baristas, expensive sandwiches, like you know the sort of like indie place you go to. Obviously they've been hit by COVID. It's a place I still like going into, because I like the atmosphere of such places. I can't sort of sit in there anymore, but like having that experience is sort of nice. I've failed to do productive work in that for many, many wonderful hours. So, you know, obviously there's a preference there. Now, if you don't like writing in cafes, or if you don't like, you know, if you don't like being around people, then of course, clearly that's a waste of money. And of course, I get where some of the financial gurus are coming from this, right? Which is like, if you've got, you know, a huge amount of money on a credit card, like in Canada, credit card interest rates are at like 21% for some products. It's like, obviously, if you are paying 20 something percent to borrow money, yes, you want to cut back on some of the nice things, because your long-term financial interests are definitely about like getting out from under those, you know, those amounts of debt. But, you know, like, I don't know. I just tend to think that people like, and I know there's like variations on it. Once upon a time, it was like avocado toast, and like that's the reason why you can't buy a home and stuff like that. I just sort of think that it's the better advice is something that kind of acknowledges that the whole reason why you're giving up so much of your week is so that you can actually get the stuff that you want, while also sort of recognizing that if you follow it to an absurd conclusion of like, you know, yeah, so I'm going to buy everything I want, you know, I'm going to buy a new TV every week because I only like new TVs. You know, clearly there's something silly going on there. So if you see a square, you will cut until you get a certain... Nice. Soups are cheap, easy, and fun to make. Oh man, actually I haven't really been making a lot of soup. That's a good idea. Coming from a college student, you can do a lot of things with Spam and cream of mushroom. If you stop eating out is the last thing that you would do if you had to save money. It's actually a statistically, at least in terms of Canada, like I don't envy anybody in the restaurant business, hospitality industry. Like that seems like a really tough place to make cash. But it has been a growing sector of the economy. Like the fact of the matter is that people do not tend to eat in. I actually suspect that probably some of the oh god, what's that service called? Like HelloFresh and stuff like that. They're sort of trying to kind of find a space in between there. I definitely ate out quite a bit more than I maybe should have. The biggest thing I actually tend to find is that I develop habits quite easily. And I think even though I develop habits, I actually like variety. So one of the problems is that things tend to get very samey for me. The other thing is that I'm not very good at cooking, but once I sort of glommed onto some writing that was kind of going more into the science of it, you know, again, if you give me like a cookbook, which is like full of like tables and like data, I'll be like really into it. So that also kind of gave me a little bit more of a push towards that. But I think the one thing I'm most disappointed by would be that, you know, going out is a nice thing. Having delivery isn't quite the same. And I'm disappointed that whatever I would have spent on going out seems to have been replaced with delivery, because I just don't think you get quite the same. I don't think you get quite the same bonuses out of it. But honestly, though, like I totally get the... I don't know if it counts as a demographic shift, but I definitely get the shift towards fewer people sort of like eating at home. And it's just simply because so much... whoa! Oh, God. I didn't think that one of my science ships might go into the region. Nuts. Okay, we'll stop that work. Let's just get him to the... get into the base. But yeah, it's like the thing is that we're like it's the same reason why like Insider wants their authors to write shorter pieces. Doesn't mean that they want the quality of the pieces to go down, but it's definitely recognizing the fact that so many people just simply do not have the time or inclination to do long stuff, right? Like, and if you can order in or if you can dine out, that's a time saver for you. So that's not really that big of a surprise to me that that's happening. But obviously, depending on your financial circumstances, that can also be like financially a terrible decision. So your wife and I are trying to cut down on ordering out. You're doing a pretty good job, although also we didn't make our goal. Yeah, that's the biggest one. Like for me, I think just because I can sort of like measure it and see where it's going, that's been some of the fun for me. Rexarian captives. Hello again, Oligarch. I take it that Rexarian ships are the cause of all this commotion? Our hosts seem to be about ready to leave their posts. Boarding this place would probably end badly for everyone involved, but if you attack the base directly, I think we can make a break for one of the lifeboats. Please try not to blow us up on our way out. Very well.
We've got to shake those hostiles.
Okay, actually, I probably could afford to bring the war form over. It's 368 versus the... Well, I mean, it's a little too even for it to be something that I feel comfortable doing, but... Who else died?
Ding, ding, ding.
Oh, I'll take the Maniac for sure. The Tecarus would like a non-aggression pact. I think I could live with that. Greetings, Raxar. The Tecarus Link formally requests the introduction of a non-aggression pact with the Natraxan Rum Runners in order to improve mutual security. Yeah, they still looking for my people. But yeah, I mean, it also not to beat the subject too much further, but like for me, it also to me just being able to quantify it in terms of these are the books I could have gotten with this. It's like it's not like I'm not going to get the books. It's just, but I might get them later, or I as with any discretionary funds, right? Like just being able to sort of say it's like, well, this is what would have happened if I'd not fallen into the usual trap of like short-termism. But I don't know. I've always tried to, like, even for myself, like I try not to be too like monk-like in my in my habits. Like I do tend to find for myself, like where I tried to be really, really strict on some financial stuff, usually what would happen would be I would wind up like just cracking, and like I just like wind up splurging on something really stupid, and then I'm like, okay, well, I'm not really ahead financially, but I now seem to be up this stupid thing. But everybody's kind of got their own angle on where they do it. I think maybe if I was more of a gourmand, I would feel better about like ordering in and eating out. But I'm not. Like
Boom. We built something.
I tend to have very, very simple tastes. So we're gonna build our way into the into employment. Actually, I should build a generator district before clearing the sinkhole. What else did I want to do? So warships are on their way. I'm curious what's taking so long. Oh, it's just because of the length of the upgrades.
Ships upgraded.
So against my better judgment, I'll
Anomaly
pop
found.
out a couple more cruisers.
Can we monetize this?
Okay. 3 there. Anomaly. This barren and lifeless world is showing signs of once having supported a biosphere. How far away is my... you know what? They haven't been gone that long, so... Oh, I should have... Yeah, this is where... I'm gonna raise the price at which I'm gonna sort of buy the alloys. It's just because we're okay, but I generally like to keep my energy above 10. Ah, damn it. I might need to just cancel this monthly trade outright. Yeah, you know what? We'll do that for now. Our detailed survey of Trigem 3 has revealed that it may once have supported life in the distant past. There are significant deposits of frozen water at the polar ice caps beneath the planet's surface. The existence of valley networks suggests that water may have once flowed freely. Terraforming this planet would theoretically be possible, but we do not yet possess the technology to accomplish this monumental task within a realistic time frame.
Another bleeding-edge technology discovered.
Okay, there's a couple things I want to work with here. So, I need to get my finances back in order. The other detail is, I mean, we're already kind of trading for a decent amount of alloys as it is. But my factions... Interesting. Okay, so I was kind of under the impression that we might have a faction that wanted prosperity, but it actually seems like we've been able to dodge that so far, so I can sort of afford to have a small amount of cash. This is not a good position for me to be, though, because if we're less than 5,000, it means if the curators come back with the 10-year bill, I'm not going to be able to get the boost to my research, and clearly I want the boost to my research. Sorry, I'm just going to adjust my seat a little bit. I want to wrap myself up in the blanket again. Time, effort, reward. The three things you wish you governed your wife, but to be honest, most of your wife that do that. Well, I mean, actually, yeah. I mean, this is... one thing that I have kind of liked, I did get a smartwatch, so that's been pretty good at making me just move and generally remind myself that I am in fact still a living being. So just being I know there's been a couple newspaper articles here talking about the tyranny of our apps and all of that, but I actually kind of like the sort of stuff that gives me something measurable. But I think everybody's kind of got their own way of navigating that. I wish I had something equivalent for the work that I do. Because I tend to find that I do more interesting stuff on my own than what I get paid to do. And the stuff that I do on my own, I wish I was a little more disciplined in doing it regularly, but because it resembles work and because I'm already putting in the full day work, obviously I want to go and play a video game every once in a while. So these robotic work units are perfect for menial labor tasks. They are hardworking and capable of following simple vocal instructions, but should not be expected to climb stairs. So we're already building up a bunch of robots, but if I want, I can accelerate those efforts. I think probably the alloy megaforges, not because I really need them, but it's nice to get the low cost tech out of the way. Also, my science ship has been... Oh yes, okay, I get what happened here. There wasn't an enemy fleet in the region. Oh, they're trapped, aren't they? Yep. Okay, well, we'll let them sort of sit around for a little while at least. Oh, right, Senate. Yeah, we're fine with the Galactic Council. I don't really see how this fails. Actually, what's kind of funny here is that the Lox, Ungrak, Va royal states were the ones to propose it, but they're the ones sort of left out in the cold. I guess when they proposed it, I hadn't declared war on them, so. Okay, I've got a Citadel now, which is nice. This is a defensive structure, is it not? Yes. I mean, I spent the time building it, but I don't actually have a clear idea of what I want to use it for.
Construction complete.
I'll just let it sit there for now. Mr. Stellaris games lately have been without robots, focused on spiritual empires. They're neat. Like, I'm trying to remember the last spiritualist empire that I played.
We really push the envelope on these ships.
I do know with the updates, robot, like the way the revisions to populate, or the way pops work, robots are quite, well, obviously they're quite different. But I definitely tend to find them, I don't know if I find them like a must-have when I have the option, but they're darn close. Like I find them incredibly useful, which is actually, it's one of the reasons why I have slowly been more attracted to spiritualist empires. I think simply because the ability to remove that, I guess, restriction, for lack of a better term, like to feel like I'm less dependent on the creation of robots, is an appeal. Okay, I sort of messed up the prep for future conflict, so I think we can still. Oh nope, they also closed the gap as far as strength. So I think I need a better economy, or I need to push ahead with science. That's a real shame. But yeah, the other blunder that I had was, in fact, what I should have done was I should have offered subsidiary status when there was like 364 days left on the treaty. But the other big blunder here is that I didn't upgrade Takvan. Like, it's just kind of sitting there waiting to get run over. Now again, we outdo them military-wise, so I don't think we'll have too much trouble. But I am going to need to move one of my fleets back, and it's going to take a while. So this fleet is going to be going through, I think, 3 fights before it actually gets to Escalion.
Technology acquired.
Quantum superposition.
I found something.
This barren and lifeless world is showing signs of once having supported a biosphere, and quantum superposition of energy coils simultaneously drained and charged. Okay. Advanced combat role seems kind of nice, although it'll be a bit late. Although Research Institute is probably the most directly useful to me, and Research Station output is low cost and also used. Yeah, so I'll do Research Station output, just following the principle of lowest cost techs. I think economic power is going to be the way I can close that gap. Our detailed survey of Trigem 4 has revealed that it may once have supported life in the distant past. There are significant deposits of frozen water at the polar ice caps and beneath the planet's surface. The existence of valley networks suggests that water may once have flowed freely. Terraforming this planet would be theoretically possible, but we do not yet possess the technology to accomplish this monumental task within a realistic time frame. Fascinating. So one of the big things is that once... Oh, you know what? I think the loss of economic power probably came from the loss of that
Resource
that corporate
scan
office. Nuts. So if I recall correctly, being able to build alloys is one of the strongest.
Really hit this tech out of the ballpark.
Is probably one of the strongest ways of boosting my economy value. I'm fine not ruling on the Tianqi Conservation Act. Repeal Pan-Galactic Recycling Initiatives. I will oppose that for now. I may change my mind on it, but... Gradual adaptation to the realities of deep space combat allows us to effectively coordinate larger maneuvers. So let's go for... I don't think I have the moats to... Oh, I do. Well, that would free up more slots to build stuff with, but I think I am still going to follow my usual rule of going for the low tech, particularly because the ability to vassalize sort of rests on it. So I either need to push my tech ahead or I need to get my economy a little bit stronger. And again, I'm not helping myself by boosting my Empire Sprawl, but this was a priority for the crystals, and then this will just close up the gaps, and we won't expand out any further, particularly because the Sprawl is going to explode if we successfully vassalize these guys. But again, I have, in theory, a bureaucratic center. Incidentally, how long do we need to wait before we have... The role of the Natraxan Rum Runners is played out. Go where you belong from now on, into the dustbin of history. Okay. Basically 2 years, and then we'll be able to make really a new Gaia world.
Out of the ballpark.
Ah, all right, that was unexpected. Solid holographic casts can alter their shapes at a moment's notice, speeding up alloy production. 10% to metallurgist output is just what the doctor ordered. So as nice as it would be to get droids, this might be the thing that lets me go to war.
Resource scan complete. Boom. We built something.
Oh, here's another problem. I should have... So we've had 100% on our infiltration level for a while. So first of all, that should give us full, like, we should have full, a full view on what we're up against. It's basically a non-existent military at this point. Like, if we go to the capital, we're going to have some resistance, but nothing our fleets really can't handle. So what I should be doing here is I should be maintaining... Yeah, prepare sleeper cells. So cease activity within the spy network, allowing the spy master to be reassigned while also preventing this infiltration level from decaying. So I think this automatically moves it from 100, but... And then this is a... Yeah. Can't assign an asset to it, sadly. That doesn't feel right, but... Oh, gonna kick out one of these cruisers, and we need to put that in with the new group. So you can see we're starting to recover a little bit as far as our financial position is concerned. We'll be lurking a bit, need to sort out some food. You and me both. Alright, communications established. We are receiving a transmission from the independent space station of the Artisan Troop. They appear to have successfully translated our language. A visitor! This is a joyous occasion indeed. Oh, forgive my manners. I believe introductions are in order. We are the Artisan Troop. Our members have dedicated their lives to the pursuit of art, music, culture, and all the other things which make existence bearable to a sapient being. Please, if you'd like to share in the wonder of our creations, do not hesitate to contact us. So, this is another important piece of the puzzle. So we're going to talk to the Artisan Troop. We would like to become your patron. That would be very helpful, allowing us to try new ideas and take more risks in the creation process. We have a 10-year program with a one-time upfront cost. So 5,000, which will take us below 10k again. But the advantage here is that this is going to be boosting my Unity. My Unity, as I was talking about before, is eventually going to unlock the vassalization tradition. So, I mean, we can already offer subsidiary status, but the, I want something that'll help me sort of keep my vassals in line. And of course, the nice thing about having vassals in this context is that I'm able to put offices in place. So I'm basically going to have lower costs in terms of setting them up. So if we take a look at the site that I do eventually want to extend to, this is going to cost me 110 influence, which is quite high, whereas it would just cost me something a bit closer to 50 inside of the Loxangrakva states once they are my subject. Oh, we're paused. Sorry. Okay, definitely willing to spend up for the education and recycling campaign, particularly the recycling campaign. Here we go. Council election imminent. The current council election will be held in 173 days. The current top contenders: Enlightened Kingdom of Khan Aramis, the Tecaris Link, and the Natraxan Rum Runners. War declaration. So the Tecaris Link have declared war on the Mirovandia Imperial Sons. I don't think we have any real... I don't think we... Oh, actually, they've closed their borders to me. Yeah, I don't really have a strong feeling one way or the other about these guys. And the resolution passed. So we should get a story event in a minute.
Planetary exploitation forecast complete.
Through hard work and experience, scientist Koldrax has developed new skills. And we can upgrade the building even further. Perhaps unexpectedly, but I'm not going to complain about it. So I think the plan was that we have a stronghold on every planet. Yeah. And then this one, I think we're going to put the research labs on. In fact, while I'm at it, robot assembly, that'll be temporary. Actually, in this case, the robot assembly doesn't make sense because it's all knowledge work here. Yeah, so I'll leave the rest here. Hey, Tiberiosity, how you doing? Am I finding the recent changes, or is this still the old version where Unity isn't used to purchase leaders? Oh, man. Yeah, I haven't been following the... I know there's an update coming. I believe that update is due for the 23rd. Oh, what's happening here? Oh, they're just Amoeba. Yes, I believe that's going to be coming in 2 days. But I do know the changes are coming. I just don't think we're playing the new version. Our operatives are drawing up a short list of potential sleeper cells within Loxong Grakva Royal States. They hope to find a set of suitable positions where agents may appear innocuous and yet remain poised to strike for a prolonged period of time. I hope that's something on the other side of the... Yes, okay, I can live with this. Hopefully we don't lose ships, but we'll see. Actually, I'm gonna... Yeah. I want to take out all of these just so my science ship can... You read that and just permanently installed your Stellaris? You're sick of them constantly changing? Oh, really? That's interesting. You still know how to run intelligence stuff. Yeah, so, just to be clear on this, Tiberiosity, this is not like me telling you how to enjoy the game, but this is actually one of the things that I think Paradox kind of considers its competitive edge in how they do these grand strategy games. Like, their business model is basically about putting out a base game. Actually, here's a question for you. Did you play Stellaris when it was first released? This might provide some context for it. But yeah, like, their whole business model is about building a game. So, okay, yeah. So, like, the changes to the borders and stuff like that. So, yeah, for them, I mean, I think there was a point, I can't remember exactly when they made this decision, but, like, they sort of realized that they were making these games where you'd pay a fixed cost once, and it would be producing, like, hundreds or thousands of hours of gameplay, but they really had no way of sort of realizing any of those gains, right? Like, you'd have already given them the money, and so essentially if they didn't release a sequel, which of course involves them putting a bunch of effort into making a whole new game, the business side of things was kind of over. So they sort of transitioned instead to this model here, which is certainly a controversial one, although I think by and large a decent one, where they'll release the game, and then the intention is over time to continue sort of growing the game out, and the way that growth and development is financed is through the sale of paid DLC. And then that's kind of where the controversy comes in, because some people will think that some of the stuff that gets released in the DLC should not be paid, whereas other people are like, yeah, I think this is reasonable. And I'll be honest with you, I've been on both sides of the issue. I think by and large I think this is an okay business model, but there have definitely been some cases where it feels like the value for what they're charging isn't necessarily there, and obviously that's a case-by-case item. But what you're describing, frustration with the game sort of being changed constantly, as you say, core mechanics. I think for them they would sort of say, well, this is kind of the product we're making, whereas I can completely understand, someone who likes the game as it is, and doesn't maybe necessarily, like, obviously these are complicated games, so I can definitely see how it'd be really off-putting to sort of feel like you've got this shifting sand of understanding. The one thing that can help you out, so if obviously you're gonna know where you stand as far as Stellaris is concerned. If you want an excuse to not uninstall it, you can under... I can't remember exactly the screen. Let me see if I can find it in Steam really quickly. If you go under Properties, I think it's Beta. Yes, I think if you go under Properties, Betas, I'm obviously assuming that you're playing this on Steam, but you can move back and essentially play old versions of the game. Now, I noticed that it doesn't go all the way back to 1.0 anymore. But when I'm taking a look here, we've got 312 Lem version rollback, 304 Dick version rollback, Butler version, Wells version, Vern, Shelley, Lee, Wolf, LeGin, and Niven. So if you like, I'll put it to you this way: if the game, if the changes to the game are ones that have kept you from enjoying the experience, I'd strongly recommend that you go back to one of those old versions, because I think that's going to give you the stability that you like about the game. The drawback to that, of course, is that if there are bugs present that are ruining your enjoyment, obviously, the fixing of those bugs is going to necessitate the, bringing on board a bunch of changes to the rules and that. But that would be, insofar as you enjoy Stellaris or previously enjoyed Stellaris, I think that might be a way that you could preserve some of your, I think that might be some of the way you could preserve some of your enjoyment. And then, when Stellaris feels to get a little bit stale, then maybe you can consider moving to a new patch, and then that might be a time when you're a little bit more, open. But open's not the right word, but that might be a time where you're sort of feeling like you're getting some value for, learning the new mechanics. Obviously, if you feel like you're just kind of being bumped around all the time, and as soon as you get sort of a grip on the game, that it's pulling the rug out from under you, I can absolutely see why you'd want to try and impose a little bit more stasis. All right, the members of the Galactic community have voted to establish a Galactic Council. Membership in this august body will be limited to representatives from the 3 most powerful and influential empires in the community. Until a new council is elected, these are the Tecarus Link, the Natraxian Rum Runners, and the Enlightened Kingdom of Con Aramis. The members of the council are expected to lead and safeguard the galactic community. Their increased powers allow them to cut through some of the red tape that so often inhibits the decision-making process in large political institutions. Now we can finally get things done. So we're definitely the junior of those 3, but still feeling good about it. Okay, so that gives me something for my my science ships to pick up on. Still gotta wait, but and as usual, we'll just take a quick peek to see if we can offer subsidiary status. I'm a little disappointed that I don't get to open up that war, but increased automation of station functions will free up more staff for research duties. We'll do the Curator Exploration Lab. It's not the most exciting option, but again, this is all about raising the floor of my tech. So we'll wait for the month to cross over.
Boom. We built something.
So that envoy should automatically get replaced. Following the recent sensor sweep of the Caxton system, Admiral Mixdorum has learned how to deploy her units to maximize their sensor range. Few fleet commanders possess the skill to carry out such complex maneuvers. Good news for me. Actually, if we've got our 5th... Sacre bleu. I keep forgetting that they're not going to go into the... Almost had enough. I think I can live. So I'm a little worried about losing some ships. My destroyers are obviously getting a bit banged up here. But these are relatively weak targets. So one thing that's going to screw you over is that you have no capacity for playing tall empires in these kinds of games. And they're removing all of the sprawl mitigation now. Whatever it is. Shame because you played many, many games over the years. Yeah, again, I don't... I probably should read the patch notes a little bit more than I do. Oddly enough, so even though I read the notes for the Brace Yourself games so much, I've almost completely neglected the ones for the Paradox games. I just kind of
better generate some revenue.
I just kind of react to them based on what they give me in terms of the gameplay. But I don't know. Like I've never really run into an update that has so fundamentally changed the game that I can't enjoy it anymore. I've definitely had ones which very substantially changed the way that I've played the game, but I've always sort of felt that I've been able to overcome them. But, you know, as with anything with games, right? Like, if you're not enjoying it, I don't see any rewards for, like, sticking with something that's not working for you anymore. The biggest thing, though, is that definitely if this game has given you some enjoyment before, the really important thing to remember, if there's a change that's happening that is just an absolute deal breaker for you, is that you are not locked into that version of the game. You always can roll back to something that you're a little more comfortable with. So, actually, I haven't played Halo Infinite yet. Obviously, I've got my Game Pass, so I can, but I need to get on top of it. Miss Ariella, how the devil are you? I don't always get a chance to shout out Ari, but Miss Ariella is an Australian streamer. Hey, thank you, Miss Ariella. Actually, sorry, I also should have shouted out to Bureaucracy, and we had Night Valiant as well. Sorry, I've been bad at my shoutouts. Okay, Night Valiant doesn't get the shout out, but so Tiberiosity does Halo Infinite, or at least you last were. I know we tend to stream at almost the same times, so I always feel a little bad because I'm not going to be current on what you've been playing, but what I've been seeing Tiberiosity play has been Halo Infinite. But the lovely Miss Ariella is an Australian streamer who I had the great pleasure of knowing in Vancouver. This is someone who I first knew on Twitch, but due to local meetups, I actually had the opportunity to meet her in person. An absolutely lovely person. It's very as lovely in person as on stream. Now, regrettably, or maybe not regrettably for her, but at least for me, she's back in Australia, which means that I don't really have the chance to be able to see her and be a complete jackass in person. Well, did you? So this is the funny case where Miss Ariella is actually one of the few people who has seen me in person. And it's kind of a funny story because basically, while I'm very comfortable talking to people on stream and I'm able to, I'm sort of able to, I actually really like public speaking. Oddly enough, the larger the audience, the more comfortable I am with it. But in individual reactions, I'm still quite shy. And certainly when I knew Miss Ariella, well, I obviously know her now, but when we lived in the same city, I was definitely quite a bit more shy and introverted. So, I kind of show up to the the meetup and all of that. And, Ari's got a cam, so I'm able to sort of see, I know what she looks like. And, obviously with cameras, angles and the fact that somebody's playing a game, obviously there's going to be some differences in terms of how people look. But, in this case here, like I go and it's pretty crowded, like the party's kind of already going on there, but I absolutely see someone who's a dead ringer for this person who I've gotten to know on Twitch. And, she sort of makes eye contact and does like the whole, like, pointing at the eyes and then, she comes over and I'm like, oh, you must be Miss Ariella. She's like, yeah, are you System Chalk? And I'm like, yeah. It's like, oh my God, now I know why you don't have a cam. But other than that, she's a very nice person who I got along with very well. But Miss Ariella knew that punchline was coming like a mile away, but I cannot resist telling that story each time. That is a complete fabrication each time I tell it. But I have learned though that apparently some people have not yet heard that one, so the individual name may change on some of them. The worst one I ever had was actually somebody got really, really mean with one of the people in chat. So I didn't do that. But no, Miss Ariella, again, I've had the pleasure of hanging out with her socially, like on something that's totally unrelated to Twitch, as well as on on the broadcast. And I will definitely say, in terms of the schedule, I don't think Ari is keeping a regular streaming schedule right now, but as somebody who I definitely recommend, especially if you like indie games, definitely a broadcaster to check out for that. And I do like recommending people follow channels like that for the simple reason that if you don't, you're just simply not going to have the opportunity to be able to catch them. If you have somebody with a regular schedule, you've got the chance that you'll see them, when somebody hosts or something along those lines. But really, in this case here, I don't want you to miss the opportunity to run into a very fun streamer who I'm happy stayed in touch after she moved back to the largest collection of poisonous things. Also, I should mention that the inimitable Olaf T. Harry, who's a very stalwart viewer, is an excellent moderator for her. So if Ari's here, that must be your cue to go and crash. I mean, she's bullying you, Olaf. Let me know, and I'll boot her. Sorry, you said a few things. Lace has working on Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet lately. My apologies. Infinite's been angering you with how broken and cheaty it feels, and how the challenges are literally impossible for you in some cases, like ranked CTF wins when you got one CTF game out of 100 matches. Oh, wow. I did not realize that Halo's problems were like that. And then your Shine, Fear, Identity. Out of curiosity, what's the identity theft worry from having a webcam? I didn't realize that was a thing. And yeah, I mean, I don't actually have a webcam for this computer. I don't know if they're all that costly. I know like good ones are a bit more costly, but for me, it's just simply that, when people say nice things about my voice, obviously it's to my advantage to do things that highlight my voice and don't necessarily, if it doesn't add or double down on that advantage, I don't necessarily see the value in adding. Like, everybody has a cam now. Sometimes there's some advantages in being unique in that way. Well, if you have to go, Olaf, I do hope you have a good rest. But again, you can DM me if she's being a jerk. The widespread use of advanced ceramics in industry can improve metallurgical yields. Now, again, this is probably one of the bigger opportunities for me to be able to launch an invasion against my neighbors, because alloys are worth quite a bit for economic power. So we should prepare. Both of these are good. I will start with exotic refineries, though. So we'll wait for the month to turn over. All right. I mean, we'll probably have another half hour anyway, so I hope you can drift off by then, Olaf. But as always, it's an absolute pleasure to have you in the channel. I know we've talked. I don't really have the viewership numbers up when I stream anymore, but I do know lurkers are the bulk of any metrics, and it's I like metrics because they kind of give me something to work with. Obviously, I was talking about how I get more exercise. I generally live in a more healthy way when I'm able to measure those sorts of things. But then there's the negative side of metrics where like Twitch just wants me to feel bad if I'm not bringing them enough viewers. So can I scream randomly in like 30 minutes, wake them up? I have done that. I'm sure Aria especially will know this, but like some of you definitely know that I do have a goofy streak. Like I like telling ridiculous jokes, just being silly. In fact, one of my feelings on games, we do have some very good funny games, But overall, I think a largely underserved market is the market for funny games. And I think it's to a certain extent, like if you're an indie, you're already taking so many risks doing something that you may want to like take yourself seriously, or you might want to make a passion project, and there's only like a certain number of people who necessarily will see a funny game as a passion project. In fact, I could sorry, this is going to be more monologue time, but like I said, the expectations for the stream are low, so I'm just going to take a quick sip of water. I really like the local game dev community here in Ottawa, but that doesn't universally apply to every individual. And there's like, I'm not going to be like, there's no tea here or anything like that, but you did a system play Freddy Space. I've never even heard of it. I'll take a look. I was looking at Unmetal recently. Unmetal seems like a very, very funny game. I haven't played Metal Gear, but I get enough of the joke. Okay, that's neat, Olaf. But like to give you an idea, now I don't think this is like universally held among independent developers, but I remember going to the Global Game Jam, and usually I actually kind of go solo on a lot of this stuff just because I don't really feel like my skills are enough, like to a point where I'm contributing to a team very well. But this one I really made a specific effort to try and be part of a team and contribute. And we'd had this idea for a game, and I sort of added this extra, like, so we were kicking around this idea, and it hadn't yet quite crystallized into a game yet. And so I sort of made a kind of a set of proposals. I said, like, okay, so what if we did, this thing and then this thing? And it was definitely like, so it actually turns out the mechanics were not all that different from King of Dragon Pass and Six Ages, but I'd not heard of either of those. I don't think Six Ages existed at that time. But part of it was just that there would be sort of this profit. I can't remember exactly what the prompt was. But essentially the structure that, after some of the ideas from the group, like I think the structure that I'd imposed would be, you would be some kind of a prophet or a leader of like an ancient tribe, and you'd deal with a number of decisions that people brought to you, and that you wouldn't necessarily know what the important decisions were, but some of them would actually be taken as these incredibly like important edicts that would like be passed down in history as like the commandments. It's like part of this is it's like a game explanation of like why, when you look at the Pythagoreans, in addition to a lot of work on mathematics, you'll see things like abstain from beans. All right, have a good meeting, Miss Ariella, or at least as good as you can manage. Thank you for lurking, and thank you for hanging out. But yeah, this so like the idea would be, it's like, so we've taken these ideas together, and I sort of say it's like, and like the end result of this thing is that you wind up with this completely preposterous set of commandments at the end of this game. If any of you've played some of the old Civilization games, you know how you'd have like a throne room, or like it would tell you your ranking in terms of like where you are in terms of the rulers. I think it's like everything from like Dan Quayle to Augustus Caesar. That might even be back in Civilization 6 if I remember correctly. But one way or the other, right? Like it's kind of that idea, but it's definitely got more of a sort of a silly side to it, where we've got this sequence of sort of survival of this tribe and all of that. And I thought it's like, well, what if we added, again, the crystallizing idea was that you're sort of building commandments, and where you might think, you're telling people to do one thing, inevitably the game is going to come up with some of the most absurd interpretations on your some of your commandments. So there are 4 people in this group, and the other 2 are like, oh, actually I like the, and they like start saying, like, the thing that's neat about this one is that like people start kind of coming up with ideas like, oh yeah, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this, and it's all in line with the stuff that people had talked about before. And then there's this third guy, this fourth guy in the group, third of the other people who are not me, I guess. It's like, what? So like this is just a joke? And I'm thinking, it was like, well, yeah, like laughing is fun, like, enjoying. But like he was very offended at the idea that a game should be funny. Like he was absolutely not about games being anything other than these unsmiling, artistic artifacts. And like the rule had been like there had to be consensus in the group on it. So that effectively just killed that whole approach. By the way, I'm not going to say that game was going to be great out of the game jam or that, but that was a shame. But it was actually quite telling. So I have actually seen this guy present in a couple of other things. That's why I'm not mentioning names or that, because this is actually somebody who participates in it. And as with anything, you kind of need all types, and there's different voices in that. But it kind of gave me a little bit of an impression, like, and it's sort of the same way that like Oscars tend not to go to comedies, right? Like I can't really think of a lot of best pictures that have gone to comedies. I kind of want to look it up actually, but I know I'm getting short on time. So in addition to the fact that I think there's just a tendency that passion projects tend not to be seen as... actually, one of the ones that I mentioned earlier, A Fish Called Wanda, I know has an Oscar for screenplay. But I don't know if it definitely didn't get Best Picture. But yeah, I think to a certain extent, like... I think they're very... Like, the type of person who's going to, like, go out on their own for a... like a for a passion project, you've got a narrow set of people who will see a funny project as like being the big thing that they want to do, like the thing that they want to quit their job for, the thing that they want to put their life savings into building or that. On top of that, obviously not everyone can be funny. I know, like, I don't really try, but I know that, like, I wish that I could be sort of instinctively funny. So obviously it's hard to do. But then again, like, developing games is hard to do. Like, I'm not entirely sure that, making a first-person shooter or making a strategy game or making anything for that matter is, like, I think pretty much if you're signing up on doing games, you're agreeing to do something hard. But especially that reaction that the guy got because I don't think that that's isolated. Like, maybe he was a little bit more of a caricature of that kind of a reaction, but I actually don't think it's uncommon for people to sort of think that funny stuff is, has this like air of disrepute. When in fact comedy is like a great genre. And again, whether it's writing, whether it's like, I definitely feel like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a lot smarter than I think a lot of people will give it credit for. There's not a lot of, like, it's a very funny book, but I also think there's not a lot of waste there. Like, it feels like some of the stuff is kind of going nowhere, or it's just kind of being outrageous for the sake of being outrageous, but it almost always has a reference that comes up later and this, seemingly bigger plan. That's one of the things I really like about it. And overall, like, it's not that we don't have funny games, we do, but generally I think the appetite for funny games is largely unsatisfied. I feel like there's room for more. But because first of all, being funny is difficult, and then number two, because it may not line up as well with what people... it may not line up as well with what people want, like, privately, like what they would want to play. I kind of assume that, I kind of assume that that's the reason why it's a more underserved market. I wouldn't say Shakespeare in Love's a comedy. I mean, it has some funny bits in it, but I definitely, I don't think that it would count as a comedy, personally. I mean, it's also been a very long time since I've seen that movie, so... tell you what, actually, see McLaugh, now that you brought it, but I'm going to do a really quick look at the Academy Award winner. I would assume that if a comedy has won Best Picture, it would be a Woody Allen film. But The thing is, I don't know if like Annie Hall or Manhattan, those would be the two that would be my guesses, but I don't know if either of them actually won it. And of course, like the early one, like Wings could be a comedy. Obviously, if I'm going back to like the 1930s, I don't know, I don't know all of these. In fact, I know very few of them, but it's like Casablanca's an exact. Like Casablanca's definitely got funny bits in it, but I wouldn't consider it. Annie Hall did? Okay, yeah. So Annie Hall is definitely a comedy. Oh, The Apartment is also a comedy. So Billy Wilder's. I probably should have thought of that. Man, there's not a lot of comedies even nominated when you start looking at newer shows. The Big Short was nominated for Best Picture? Yikes. Sorry, I'm almost done. Getting close to the 2020s. Thing is too, like there's obviously so many movies coming out now that I'm missing so much of them. Oh, 2021 nominations are out? Interesting. Okay, yeah. Yeah, well, I mean that's kind of the point. C. McLeod. Like, and it's a shame, right? Because there's so many examples of comedy that is tremendously impactful. But you know, it's actually like science fiction, right? Like if science fiction gets sufficiently if you look at the organization of bookstores, you've got science fiction and fantasy like stuck in the same section. It's like the people who have like Spock or elf ears in their pocket section. And then like once it gains a certain amount of literary respectability, the books suddenly like go to the literature section. So like Margaret Atwood, I think it's fair to say writes science fiction, but you're almost certainly going to find her in the literature section, not in the science fiction section. Which is fine because like honestly, you know, if you like reading, chances are you just like getting on with reading your book and having a good time with it. But, you know, it does create this, like, again, I guess it kind of comes down to its, the reasons you do things. Like, and I guess if you're making a game and you want to achieve a certain level of artistic respectability, then chances are doing a funny game's not going to achieve that. Because I don't think people are necessarily going to, maybe give you the credit that you want from that. But we did just play Not for Broadcast, which is a genuinely funny game. But, I mean, it gets very serious at parts. But, you know, it's very hard to say that's a game. I mean, I'd argue that game probably has more to say than a lot of other games that we play, and games that want to be taken seriously. So it's definitely an unfair, like I'd say maybe it's an unfair, you know, distinction. The same way that, you know, science fiction has a lot to say, but that doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, it'll be the sort of thing where, you know, everybody's like, oh, you read science fiction, you're a very sophisticated individual. But yeah, I mean, I was just kind of, really what I was just trying to unpack was that I think probably one of the like really obvious things where there's sort of an unserved market, and if you're one of these people who's like trying to find a niche that you could potentially build a business on, I think probably funny stuff is something that is uncontested territory for the most part. Okay, subdermal stimulation. Deep tissue implants are the latest innovation in the revolutionary overlapping of sensory engineering with entertainment experiences. Where we're going, we won't need skin to feel. Alright, again, we're going for the cheap tech, so global defense grid, even if we don't use it. And we have crossed over the month, so no subsidiary status. Curses. Alright. We need to find new ways to push the... I mean, it's also possible they've always been equivalent to us, and it was just the fact that there was the treaty that would allow us to offer it. But yeah, we gotta find something to... I don't want to declare war because that's gonna make the that's gonna give them another 10-year treaty, but I kind of want to get on with the fight. All right, let's see if we can recover these hostages.
Ship status cutting edge.
As the pirate base slowly tears itself apart in a savage chain reaction instigated by our military vessels, the search for the captive crew and the Luxian begins. Of the Luxian begins. If they made it to a lifeboat, they should be attempting to hail us by now. Hey, no lifeboats. Abandoned, collapsing. Captain? The kidnapped Raxari never made it off the pirate base. We are unable to determine exactly where they met their end, if the lifeboat failed to launch or if they never made it out of their holding cell. But the fact remains that they are dead. The Raxarian people are sure to appreciate the swift actions undertaken by the oligarch of the Natraxian rum runners, but they're also unlikely to soon forget of this tragedy. So, didn't lose any ships, but we'll have a couple penalties. I do, however, I've unlocked my Explorer, and I'm able to get some nice research in. The other subject that I'm sorry to rant so much about game development stuff. The other thing that I'm kind of interested in, and this seems to me to be the sort of thing where there wouldn't be like writing on it, but I'm still curious. I'd kind of like to know how franchises start. So in one sense, you've got like a big company like Ubisoft who can... I'm going to just fill in the gap here, and then we're going to stop our expanding our borders. Oh, no, I'm not. This is because I can activate my relic. And we don't need to worry about... So Calsach will now be... Ubel life seeding turns the planet into a Gaia world by deploying gene-tailored plant life injected with unique Bale ability of organic terraforming. Our environmental specialists are pleased to report that the terraforming process on Calsach has been completed. The planet has been successfully transformed into a Gaia world, owing to our deployment of laboratory-created plant hybrids containing carefully selected segments of the Bale genetic code. Once again, as a result of the process itself not quite fully understood by our geneticists, a number of new Bale populations have appeared planetside, emerging when terraforming neared completion. Excellent. More slaves. Alright. This one, it does make sense to build robots. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the grand scheme of things, we've got 5. So this is kind of the new breadbasket of the Empire. Oh wow, we've really specialized on food already. So I might actually be willing to switch this over to mineral and industry. I'm gonna need to think about this a little bit. But I can see a good argument for concentrating our food production even further. But yeah, so what I mean in terms of franchises, so like obviously some properties by very large developers or publishers, like it's very clear they are trying to establish a franchise. Now it doesn't always succeed. So I think Anthem would be an example of a game where they probably wanted to have, if not multiple games, at the very least sort of a very long-standing sort of live service component that would, you know, have this developing world and so on and so forth. Assassin's Creed is definitely something which, if like, it's hard to see that was in. Like, I think every meeting about that game was very much about how it would be a franchise and how there was the possibility of, you know, continuing to make additional games in this series and so on. And to a certain extent, like, for a lot of things that large publishers do, like, I think you can sometimes just say that, you know, these players are capable of doing things that other people do not. So, you know, if you're releasing Cyberpunk 2077, you are allowed to set your release date and people are going to move around you. If you're releasing a Star Wars movie, you know, chances are people are going to be deciding when to release their stuff around when you choose to release your Star Wars movie. But obviously it's not just like, sometimes some companies have gotten very big off of the, you know, the establishment of a world. So like FASA, who made Shadowrun and BattleTech, like once upon a time, FASA was a bunch of nerds who really liked playing Dungeons and Dragons, and they wound up creating these properties that, I mean, if you think of BattleTech, right, this is something that exists as a tabletop game, as a role-playing game, a series of novels, virtual reality centers, a TV show. Am I missing anything? Oh yeah, no, video games. They've had video games ever since by like 82. It's like, I think since like 1982. The Crescent Hawk's Inception, I believe, is the first BattleTech game. So like that's incredible to me. That's almost, I guess that's like 50 years of, sorry, not 50, 40 years of. It's like 40 years of BattleTech games. Like, that's a really long time for something like that to exist. And again, like, somewhere, at some time, I'm sure these were a bunch of guys going to conventions, like, trying to make sure that they sold enough of these, you know, whatever, you know, modules for... I actually should probably find out what FASA's first product was. I think it was like a Traveler supplement, maybe? Anyways... And then like Games Workshop, right? Like, I don't know when Games Workshop became a big thing, but like at some point, like there is some point in history in which Warhammer and Warhammer 40k didn't exist. But of course, if I say Warhammer 40k, a lot of you are going to have immediate ideas of what that means and like what type of game or what kind of story you're dealing with. And the thing that maybe interests me about this, so number one, I'm just kind of curious how they get created. Like, what... Like, I'm assuming, like, if somebody's found out the secret to this, like, this is a competitive advantage for them. But the other thing that's important here is that it's not the only way to go. So, like, in terms of Paradox, they didn't do this with Stellaris. In Stellaris, they just made a sandbox where you can sort of take all the other stuff that you like. They didn't try and build this world in which you know, this is what this alien set believes, and you know why they're like enemies for these guys. I don't know. I'm just kind of interested in terms of, clearly they're two very different decisions that people will make, and I'm a little bit curious, like how franchise essentially get born and how actually you get that mind share. Because like to a certain extent I can understand it for large publishers, because again, like you have, to a certain extent, you have like marketing that will allow you to, to sort of be able to establish a certain set of sort of ideas, right? Like you can rely on people having seen your advertising and know a little something about it. But it's very clear that some businesses have actually succeeded because they've been able to establish these things, which of course implies that they didn't have the resources to create it. Imperial notice: this world shall henceforth be known as the breadbasket of the Empire. I like the way you're thinking about this. Actually, I should make sure that it's listed as an agricultural world. List of targets has been finalized, and our operatives have been quietly drifting their way into position. They await our signal to begin establishing sleeper cells. Commence operation. Did I miss something? They might actually be stronger than I thought they were before. Reports from Operation Prepare Sleeper Cells are favorable so far. After many false protestations of fealty, not to mention a plethora of faked background checks, our operatives have settled into bureaucratic positions within the governing structure of the royal family. From there, they will be able to update us on the latest happenings from the Loch Sungrak Va royal states and maintain our long-term ability to conduct operations there should we wish it. Okay, so let me just make sure. Yeah, we're still at 100%, so I can afford... If I'm getting this correct... I wish I'd understand... Like, so I'm trying to find where on here it says what the decay rate is, but I cannot tell why all the alien empires around me hate me. You did nothing bad. Certain planets never existed. They're always fields of debris in space. So, Coconut Crab, you're not talking about a specific game that you're playing. You're talking about a lore, right? Or are you actually in a situation where like everyone around? Are you talking about, or is this your, I'm taking this as fanfic where you've completely demolished the galaxy around you, but just on the odd chance that was actually a serious question. Like, this isn't about a game that you're playing where you've got a bunch of pissed off neighbors, right? Alright, so we've got a spy network in here. I think we'll continue, I think we're gonna spy on them. We've already got a toehold on these, so... You are the alien, that's all the reason we need to hate. I don't know nearly as much. So, one of my favorite things to do to like make me...
bleeding edge technology discovered.
Most of you know I'm like a nerd's nerd. And the problem is I don't even have the skill, like, so at least if you're a nerd, like, usually you have a skill that makes you, like, valuable or interesting. I don't even really have that. I just have, like, all of the negative traits of nerdery. But if I ever want to feel like a cool guy, well, there's two things that'll make me feel like a cool guy. Number one, as Joke of Stellaris, you're currently... Okay, yeah, that's good. I'm sorry, Coconut Crab. I should just have it, especially because I was just talking about a sense of humor. I definitely took it as a joke. But the worst possible thing I could imagine would be you asking a genuine question and me laughing at you about it. So I let my cautious nature get the better of me. That was funny. I apologize if I didn't give that proper respect. But on the odd chance you were asking a genuine question and it just was phrased in an odd way, I didn't want to be a jerk. But yeah, the Joke of Stellaris, your current game, you are enslaving the galaxy and you have 3 saves. The other one's Determined Exterminator and Driven Assimilator. Oh man, actually I haven't done a Determined Exterminator yet, but I really enjoyed my Driven Assimilator one. That was I liked the story that I came up with for it, and then I just had fun playing that one. That was the one I did when Synthetic Dawn first released. But yeah, so the two things that'll make me feel cool, every once in a while when Apple will release a new, like, so for, if you don't, I mean, I'm sure you can figure this out, but I don't know what the other services do, but for Apple, there are 4 playlists that will be updated once a week. There's the chill mix, the favorites mix, the get up mix, and then new music mix. This is just, they'll put together their, their team to recommend some music that seemed to be in line with the sort of stuff that you like. And every time jazz shows up in that, I'll just think to myself, why, yes, Apple, I am a cool guy. Thank you for recognizing this. The other way, but I mean, that one is kind of determined as to whether or not, like, if I listen to a video game soundtrack on Apple Music, it's the only thing it's going to recommend. That's not true, actually, but it's definitely going to go a little heavier on video game soundtracks, I've noticed. I think it's just because there's a set of users who probably only listen to music and, or video game music, and, like, it kind of picks me up as that. Thank you, C. McLaugh. I mean, I am who I am, right? I don't feel bad about it. It's just, I should probably be honest about the fact that I'm a nerd's nerd. But the one thing that I know I can do to make myself feel cool on a relative basis is to go and take a look at a Warhammer 40k wiki. Because I actually think the setting's kind of neat, and it's neat to look at some of the details. But my God, the sheer word count on just about any topic inside of it. It is one of the few cases where I've wanted to go in depth on the. I wanted to go in depth on a subject. Like, I'll normally read just about it. If I'm on a Wikipedia rabbit hole, I will read the whole article. Warhammer 40k fandom is the sort of thing that actually they're able to exceed my interest in the topic. It's dramatic stuff. It's very interesting. I'd love to know more about that world, but holy crap, that stuff is the product of a lot of enthusiasm. Stellaris Among the Ruins music is the best. Let's see if we can make this. Where are you? The fact that you cannot see what a cool guy I am, I always say one thing: the imperfection is yours. Nice. Yeah, I don't think there's anything that is anything less than an 11 in the 40k setting. I like the fact that they've opened the license up to more people using it, although it does sometimes feel that a lot of stuff gets released under the 40k license where it's kind of like renting revenue. Like, they sort of know, it's clear they've got their budget, their turnaround, and because you can put a Space Marine on it, you've kind of got this certain audience that's going to pick it up. So I sometimes feel like some of those are more missed opportunities. But, again, that would be like saying for video games, right? Oh yeah, there's just so much crap that comes out. It's well, maybe that's true. It seems to be there's a lot of people who like playing that quote unquote crap. But, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that. I think about the sort of stuff I really like playing, whether that's Stellaris or whether that's Hive Time. But yeah, it's a neat set. Again, I played Warhammer Fantasy Battles for a very brief period of time. I haven't played that much 40k outside of the context of video games. But I've been getting really into BattleTech again lately. I've been playing a lot of MechWarrior 5, and then that led me to play the Harebrained Schemes BattleTech again. And that I do actually have some tabletop stuff for. I've got their core set, and then I was a Kickstarter backer on their Clan Invasion set, so I have a lot of plastic miniatures that'll probably never be taken out of their boxes because I can't find anybody to play with. All right, the Curator Exploration Lab. These shipboard lab facilities incorporate advanced technologies from the ancient Curator Order to further increase survey speeds. Try and, again, just go for the cheap tech where I can because we're trying to get enough of an advantage over our neighbors to be able to give them an offer they can't refuse. And why do I have idle science ships? Alright, well, I was kind of counting on you being able to fly through the new vassal, so that's justifiable. We're lacking influence for you. The rest of you've done your development. Okay. think that's as far as we can go. I am at the limit. I know I spent a lot of time talking about not Stellaris things, but I actually kind of need to wrap things up because I have a lot of stuff to get through before I go to bed tonight. So I'm going to do a quick just review of my lands, and basically just make sure that we're set up for some success in next week's stream. Alright, why are... Okay, so the population approval is low on Gruner. I'm assuming this is because of the slavery.
I would never want to belong.
Thank you so much for the follow, Coconut Crab Crusade. Yeah, thank you, Senior Q. I mean, I've definitely been looking forward to going back to Stellaris. Sorry, I'm just taking a second here. I mean, one of the things I could try and do would just be to distribute the luxury goods to try and just calm everyone the hell down. I mean, it's a Gaia world. How upset can you be about this? But yeah, the slavery's coming to bite us. So I'll need to think. Well, actually, it's also the lack of enforcers. So I think what we probably just do is get a couple more of our pops in here. They'll fill out the enforcer slots. That'll help with the crime, in addition to bringing up the stability, so it'll actually attack it from both angles. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm really happy that I did the Orwell stuff, because I thought it was worth doing, especially once I learned that there were people who'd visited the channel who didn't just read the work. I can understand people not reading the works because there's a lot of stuff that people recommend to you, and in the end you need to prioritize the stuff that you read. But I was genuinely surprised that there were people who had never heard of Orwell in the chat. So there's a limit to the number of people who ultimately saw the stuff, but especially because people were talking about how they like hearing me read books and that. It seemed to be a very good opportunity, seeing as his work, except for the United States and Spain, because his works did go into the public domain this year, and they'd already been in the public domain for Canada and a couple of other countries which have life plus 50 years copyright laws. It was a good opportunity to do it. I'd actually been waiting to do that for Animal Farm for a very long time. Sorry, I just want to see my bureaucrat. Oh wow, we don't have any bureaucrats. Okay. Well, that's something to look forward to. But yeah, so I mean, it's something I wanted to do. It was something I was happy to do. But it does, of course, have that. There's a cost to that, which is to move away from the sort of stuff that I normally do. And I wanted to, I was looking forward to getting back to the main rotation, just because I know, for lack of a better term, there's a certain expectation for it, and it's an expectation I'm happy to meet, just because I think it's it's something I like doing. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. I screwed that up on the reading, by the way, so for those of you who've seen it on, or were there at the time, or have seen it on the YouTube, the book describes that line as replacing the laws of animalism. And what I did, well, I didn't exactly phone it in, but I sort of I built the sort of the slide presentation to change the rules as as I'd go through. It was just a nice little marker for me to have something on the screen as we were going through. And what I'd done, I basically just I copied the rules and then did the adjustment. So I went from the back to the front. And what I did was I added some animals are more equal than others at the end rather than replacing the rules. Because of course if you have the existing rules before, it makes no sense. Because the rules about not wearing clothes are still there. But anyways, I messed it up. It's but it's, I mean, you're probably listening to the reading anyway. It's but it's a wonderful, wonderful book. Probably underrated in my opinion, because 1984 sort of overshadows it. 1984 is also wonderful, but yeah, like I said, it's I'm glad that I did it, but it does carry with it the cost of not doing this stuff, and I'm happy to be back to Stellaris. Like, that was a nice break to make me really appreciate this run. So, oh, that's great, Index Gnome. Yeah, it's actually had been a little while. The one thing that was different for me was I had never read Orwell's unpublished preface for Animal Farm, so we did read that. We didn't read it during the Animal Farm broadcast, but I read it at the start of oh yeah, this will be a neat one. So I'll close on this. I'm sorry to not talk about Stellaris stuff at the very end, but we read the preface for the start of Not for Broadcast, and what really interested me, I did a little bit of reading it afterwards. So there is a description of a publisher that originally agreed to publish Animal Farm, but then went to the Ministry of Information, and a bureaucrat there recommended that he not publish it. It turns out that the bureaucrat who made that recommendation was a spy for the USSR. I don't know how this kind of came down to history, and how, obviously there's other connections where you would think that might be a little bit more there might be other references that you would think of before the Animal Farm thing, but apparently it is it is recorded that the person who recommended against the publication of Animal Farm was in fact an agent for a foreign intelligence service, which was interesting. I also read I didn't read it on stream, but I read a review from the New Republic, which was basically the kind of review that Orwell predicted in the unpublished preface for Animal Farm, which I suppose the New Republic would have been the magazine to publish that. Anyways, that's a totally separate conversation for another time. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with Stellaris. For those of you that are here for games like Stellaris, that will be for Mondays. On Wednesday, I'm going to be back to a Brace Yourself game. I haven't decided which one. I know there was a bit of a request for Industries of Titan, but I suspect I may do Phantom Brigade, just because Phantom Brigade has gotten the more recent update, which means that Industries of Titan is going to be getting an update next, and so that'll be a good reason to sort of turn over into that. But I am on the fence on it just because I know people want to see more Industries of Titan, and I would like to kind of try and keep people happy on that. And then I've already been back to Darkest Dungeon, so I didn't do any boss fights last week, but I'll probably do another boss fight this Friday if you happen to like that game. I still have not beaten it, so this is going to probably be my first time to beat the. This will probably be my first time to beat Darkest Dungeon, but we're certainly going to do that this week. But yeah, for those of you that like Stellaris, see you in a week. For those of you who just like my stuff in general, I will see you either Wednesday or Friday. And I will note that the Oblivion broadcasts are still going, but I've had some difficulty getting everything recorded on time. And so the last few have been closer to 2 hours than 3. And I'm going to try and reverse that trend. But I want to... I need to get sleep, right? Some of those I've been recording at like 5 o'clock in the morning. So like going from 5 to 6 is a massive, that is just such a massive hit to my, my well-being, that I have to, pull it back. But for those of you that like the Oblivion episodes, even if they're shorter, that will be starting at 7 o'clock tomorrow, either as a vodcast or you can watch the high-quality version on YouTube. I will leave you in the capable hands of Night Valian 28. He is playing XCOM Enemy Unknown, which is a wonderful game. If you've not seen it, you definitely should stick around and check it out. He's a soft-voiced Brazilian, and he was hanging out in the channel a little bit earlier. So I hope you enjoy his stuff. I'll see some of you later on in the week, and for those of you who are for Stellaris, I'll see you all in a week. Until then, bye.